cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife, leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. And white. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Just let me go, it's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. Black and white.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to Knockhill. Yes, we've finally got Knockhill on iRacing. Tonight, Monday night NXTGEN racing, we have the MX-5 Cup. Round 2 of the championship here at Knockhill Racing Circuit. A recent installation by iRacing, the home of Scottish motor racing in Fife, Scotland. About 20 miles northwest of Edinburgh and about 40 miles northeast of Glasgow. And the track, first built in 1964, very, very famous for hosting the British Superbike Championship and the British Touring Car Championship. But tonight, it hosts the MX-5 Cup by NXTGEN Racing. My name is Alex Everett, one of two commentators for you tonight. Alongside me is Paul Walsh. Paul, how are you tonight?
Oh, doing fantastic. Well, thank you, Alex, and I hope the same of yourself.
Absolutely, can't wait for this. We have been waiting so long for Knockhill on iRacing, and I'm so glad we got the green flag to put it in the schedule for tonight's race. Just a wonderful, wonderful circuit, isn't it?
Oh, most definitely. And when you compare it to what could have been in the schedule, circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia, instead of being at Spain, we're up in the Scottish Highlands right now. And it is the case that this circuit, whilst it may be a short lap, it's not going to be short of action. That can be assured.
Absolutely, absolutely. And excuse me, and quite the crown jewel of the British Touring Car Championship. It's normally midway through the season, and a lot of the drivers look forward to it. But Knockhill is quite the fairground for lots of other things, not just racing. Isn't that right, Paul?
Oh, indeed. And for many of you who are fans of your indie music, particularly if you're a fan of the band Kaiser Chiefs, some of you may already be getting flashbacks to the music video Hole in My Soul, whereby it was the case that they decided to film the music video using some of the older versions of the Honda Civics, not quite the latest version, albeit that came to iRacing as well, alongside Knockhill in the most recent major update. But this was the location where the Kaiser Chiefs filmed their music video for Hole in My Soul. This circuit also has been featured a number of times on TV shows, particularly motoring shows, whether it be on Top Gear. If I remember correctly, it was in season 8 that Top Gear made an appearance here. Also on the Grand Tour, in the Grand Tour Lockdown Special, they went up to, and when I say they, Clarkson, Hammond and May, the trio that we all know and love, came to Knockhill. And there are plenty more TV series and indeed motorsporting events, and whether they are actual racing events, alternatively just events to bring people together. This circuit has a reputation for being a great place in order to get brilliant action, whether it be on the live screen or there in person. Indeed, our drivers, I think, have been looking feverishly forward to going racing around here.
Absolutely, and it's quite a universal track as well, quite diverse. It hosts touring cars, bikes, rallycross, and added to that, hosts karts. It even has reverse layouts. You can drive this track even on iRacing as well as real life in reverse. And there's also rallying hosted at Knockhill on a regular basis using the track and surrounding areas. So quite the location for motorsport, Scotland's pride and joy, as we mentioned. But a little bit of housekeeping before we get the racing underway. We're about 5 minutes away from qualifying tonight, and we have a huge, huge grid tonight. 35 drivers I count in our drivers list, which is a lot more than last week, actually. So it's great to see all these drivers coming through. But a little bit of housekeeping before we get underway. This is the schedule we are going to undergo for the season for the next couple of months. We started off last week at Silverstone, the national layout, and what a round that was. 2 races won by Bobby Thompson, and the final race of the night won by Mikey Doble. We come into today's round, another British track to host us today. It is Knockhill International, of course, replacing the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. Next week, 1 week from today, we'll be off to Red Bull Ring for round 3 of the championship. There'll be a week off in between rounds 4 and 5, but when we come back for round 4, it'll be the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, aka Montreal. We'll head south to Florida State and the Daytona Road Course on the 10th of January, and then we'll hop over the pond again, but the other way. We'll head over to Australia for the Bathurst Circuit, aka Mount Panorama, to see us out for the first half of the season. To see us into the second half of the season, we'll be back in Europe for the Monza GP circuit. So we'll see these cars hit their maximum potential speed at Monza for round 7 of the championship. And then we're back in the UK for the Snetterton 300 layout. Zandvoort will host round 9 of the championship, and then another week break. And when we come back for the final 3 rounds, the final quarter of the championship, we'll be in Brazil for round 10 for the Interlagos GP circuit. And then we hit the streets We hit the streets of Long Beach in round 11 of the championship, the penultimate round, a tricky track to see us into the final part of the season. And then probably an even more difficult challenge, round 12, which is also a 2-hour endurance with double points on offer. So a lot at stake on what a tricky track that is. The Nürburgring VLN, we all know it as the Nordschleife. That'll host the final round of the championship. A tremendous calendar we've got there, and the format of the championship is as so. We have 3 races on in each round of the championship. 2 15-minute races to introduce us, as well as 15 minutes qualifying, which is coming up next. And we also have a 25-minute feature race later on in the night for race 3. There are 3 categories, skill categories on offer for the drivers. There's Pro, Pro-Am or Am class. Pro category tends to be the top drivers on iRacing and in real life. Drivers who race in real life as well are categorized as Pro. Pro-Am is a little bit of an in-between category for those who are not quite up to the speed of the Pro category drivers, but are somewhere in the middle. And Am category drivers are often new drivers to iRacing, as well as drivers who are not quite as experienced in racing as others might be. So plenty of action to fall before us. And just before we get into the live action of qualifying, which is just a few minutes away, we will go through the championship standings as they are coming into tonight. So the Pro Category Championship, Mikey Doble, with his very consistent night he had at Silverstone. He got a win in race 3 as well. He tops the standings on 83 points from Lee Holmes and Pete Newman in 3rd place. Sam Smith 4th from Ben Bennyworth. Adam Mcnally, a good night for him in 6th place. 7th place for Ollie Peters, and he was our driver of the day last week. Adam Delmont in 8th, Nick Clibbins in 9th and 10th. Rounding off the top 10 was Bobby Thompson, who won 2 races but a DNF in race 3. So that is the Pro Category Championship. And Paul Walsh, would you mind showing us through the Pro-Am Category Championship standings?
Of course, very happy to, Alex. And currently going into round 2, Craig Cockrell right now leading on 84 points. The Simtech Racing Gold driver being the most consistent performer out of the Pro-Am drivers over the 3 races at Silverstone. But it is the case that Lee Horn there on 79 points, trying to nip at his heels and trying to close the gap as rapidly as possible. The 2 of them coming to blows, but quite favourably and fairly. And it's the case right now, separated by only 5 points. Will we see more fireworks today? John Burnham in P3 on 60 points. A bit of a gap to P2, and he'll be looking to close down that 19-point deficit, and he'll need to do so quite rapidly, because otherwise he will have Aaron Thompson only 9 points behind on 51 points in P4, looking to hunt after him. Nigel Stock completes our top 5 there on 48 points, and it's only on result count back at the moment that he's ahead of Jeff Perkis in P6 on 48 points as well. 2 further points down in P7, Wayne Douglas, followed by Lewis Kent there in P8. Both drivers there looking to do their best, but Lewis Kent really forming the second pack in our Pro-Ams after 1 round on 28 points, with Glenn Humberstone and Liam Silkstone completing our top 10, and then Mark Oliver just outside the top 10 at the moment on 18 points. But a great opportunity tonight for all of our drivers here to get some more points on the board and also get to grips once again with the MX-5.
Absolutely. And speaking of getting to grips, these are the drivers in the Am category, and it was very exciting to watch last week. And we saw Paul Scott and David Whitehouse share honours in the Am category last time out. Paul Scott topping the standings though on 89 points, and only 2 points behind is David Whitehouse. And a special shout out to David Whitehouse, as only last Thursday, I believe, him and his partner gave birth to their 2nd child. So a big congratulations to Dave and his partner. 3rd place in the Am category championship standings is Martin Smith, with Liam Tack in 4th and Simon Robson in 5th. There are a lot of drivers who are not on these standings who are part of the championship but haven't taken part just yet, on 0 points of course. But we have a lot of drivers in the server today who will probably add themselves to those championship listings. 35 drivers out here at Knockhill on such a short track. This is going to be very interesting, isn't it, Paul?
Oh, indeed, and I hate to make the pun, but I do predict a riot out on the circuit today. What with the fact that we've got a lot of established drivers here, but also a lot of newcomers to the series. You put 2 and 2 together as we get ready to transition into qualifying. And I think it's going to be the case also with Knockhill only recently becoming available. Many of our drivers will have driven it on other simulators, but now they've got to tackle it in iRacing as we move into qualifying.
Good old pun from you there, Paul. Every day I love you less and less. But we move on to qualifying. Indeed. Get us out of this mess quickly. So, drivers head out onto the newly released Knockhill circuit on iRacing. So accurate. I drove this track the other day, and it is it is absolutely inch perfect. And when we get around to the first lap, Paul is going to show us around the track, but just observing the drivers get a little bit of warming up here. It will probably take 1 or 2 laps for the drivers to warm up their tyres here. But we are going to look towards Mikey Doble, a big load of traffic in front of him. But Mikey Doble, our Pro Category Championship leader, he is going to show us on a lap of the Knockhill Racing Circuit. Here we go, over to you, Paul.
Alright then, thank you, Alex. As we see Mikey Doble here trying to find some space out on the circuit at the moment. There's only 9 corners here. It's a very short lap, and the lap times we're looking for are low 55s, potentially even a high 54 if a driver nails it and gets some slipstream on the straight. So making his way down the start-finish straight, then going down towards turn number 1, reaching the maximum elevation point of the circuit as he goes across the timing line there, and now making his way into turn 1. Trail braking in here and attacking that apex curve, clipping it high, and you can see he bounces the car now down to turn 2 as he makes his way into 3, flicking the car into the right-hander here and going nice on the apex curve. But he almost loses it there as he's right on the limit as he makes his way through 4. But I do think Doble's having to make his way around other cars as it is turning into a little bit of a feud there as he comes through 5, 6, the left into right, and now makes his way up into 7. Coming into the braking zone here, bringing the car steadily down and looking to get on that apex curve nice and high before flying now into the left-hand long king, the long left-hander completely flat out, going down towards turn number 9. Now the hairpin corner here as he makes his way down, Taylor's hairpin as it's known, and into the heavy braking zone he comes, completing the lap, although he's got a bit of traffic ahead of him, and I think Doble's going to try and find another lap out there, as I think he's just had a driver go right down the inside of him, coming out of the hairpin and moving out of the way immediately, but everyone really scrambling for space here. I think the big takeaways that we saw from that lap, albeit it wasn't the most troublesome free lap there for Mikey Doble, and I think a lot of that was just trying to navigate his way around, is firstly just how short the lap is, but also secondly just how bumpy this circuit is in terms of every corner presents its own challenge in terms of small inclinations in the road or an elevation change. And as you can see here as Mikey's making his way down into the dip, into the left-hander of 5, then into the right-hander of 6, and carrying all that momentum through. You've got to be a master of balance in the car here. The difference from Silverstone that we saw last week, Silverstone, a circuit, or Silverstone National, because we didn't run the full variant, we would run the National variant. Silverstone was all about mastering the art of carrying speed through the corners, but having that ability to essentially be forgiven when you get it wrong. You can run a little bit wide, whereas here at Knockhill, if you do go wide, you'll end up in the gravel on the grass, and if you get it wrong and hit an apex curve too hard, you'll be launching the car into the stratosphere. And that's the one thing that our drivers have commented on when I was listening in to some of the drivers doing their practice sessions earlier in the week, or in the build-up I should say, really over the weekend earlier in the week. My goodness, it's Monday still, and it is the case that a lot of them were saying about hitting these curves too hard, and you can just launch the car in there. As we see Doble literally taking all 4 wheels off the road there as he slides his way through turns 2 and 3, and now he is on a lap here as he makes his way on through, but a lot of drivers being compromised as we do see Adam Mcnally making his way on around, and everybody just trying to find some space out on the circuit. Oh goodness me, and Jamie Dory, they're getting it wrong, collecting one of the cars here. As we see, it's one of those situations right now where I think everyone pushed into their utmost here. The circuit hasn't got too much rubber down on it at this point in time, and as David Whitehouse there makes his way around with the livery that we love to see, and Wayne Douglas in the Red Bull livery there as well, and we can see Nigel Stock just getting it a bit wrong by looks of things on the exit of 7. Everybody really trying to find space out there, but I think we're starting to get some lap times coming, some indicative lap times, and the fastest lap so far, Bobby Thompson, have a 55.562 as the BT Motorsport of Essex and Kent Motorsport driver here really going toward, but Mikey Doble responds instantly of a 55.4, and it seems though these two really trying to crowd the timesheets of being the #1 driver in qualifying. Or wouldn't you have to say, Alex, these two really going to toe to toe early on.
Exactly as they did in the Legends Cup for 2 seasons straight. Mikey Doble and Bobby Thompson going at it. New to the series, Alex Denning puts it into 2nd position. Just shy of a 10th behind Mikey Doble, but what an impressive lap indeed from the newcomer tonight. Bobby Thompson 3rd overall and 2nd in category. We saw him top the standings in practice, so good going from him. But we're seeing already in this qualifying session, although there's only just shy of a third of the way through, there's drivers squabbling for track position. There's drivers trying to make sure that they don't get caught up in other people's mess up, should we say, on these laps, as Bobby Thompson goes a bit quicker than his personal best and goes to within it was within a 10th of Mikey Doble, but Mikey Doble has just stretched it to over 2 tenths clear of Bobby Thompson, the defending champion. Granted, he's only got the number 88, He is absolutely flying out there, trying to defend his title. First in the championship in the pro category standings, and following through the chicane there. He was following car number 9 on circuit there, which was Callum Jenkins. Callum Jenkins, new to the series, is a British Truck Championship driver. So welcome to the series to Callum. We also have new drivers in the form of Dan Rowbottom. That is right, Dan Rowbottom of Halfords Racing with Cataclean. He joins us with a rather appropriate livery, and he is 12th overall in the standings right now. So welcome to the series to Mr. Rowbottom. See what he's getting up to next season in the BTCC. Hopefully having another trial out in the Honda Civic. Let's see what else is going on.
And I must admit, quickly diverging away from our MX-5s, I can't wait to get behind the wheels of the recently added Honda Civic Type R TCR machine. I mean, having seen the Honda Civics go around circuits such as, not Knockhill necessarily, but Brands Hatch, I can imagine that it must be an absolute dream come true for Rowbottom. But I wonder how he feels going from the Honda Civic Type R to the Mazda MX-5, because he's probably, well, it's the case, he's had the experience of both now around this circuit, albeit one in the real world, one in the virtual world. And I wonder if we have the opportunity to speak to him later or just get his thoughts as to what he thinks is the more enjoyable experience at Knockhill.
Absolutely. I can only imagine how fun it is to rag these MX-5s around this track. As you see, most drivers really hitting these curbs hard, getting the car airborne. You can see Dan Rowbottom hop across the curb of turn 3 there, and across the chicane we go. Oh, it's just great to watch. Sideways going through the chicane. It's great to watch these drivers go through.
Oh, indeed. And the thing about it here as well is one of the challenges with qualifying is just look how tight those margins are. I mean, Bobby Thompson at the moment retaking pole by a 10th after Mikey Doble, but then you look at the deltas between each of the laps that subsequently follow, and it really is hundreds and thousands which determine the gaps between our drivers and who's going to be on which row of the grid. But the thing is, one of the big questions is how important is qualifying here? It is drastically important, because really the major overtaking zones for this circuit are into turn 1 and also into turn number 9. Can you go for overtakes elsewhere around the lap? Well, you can, but it's so difficult. And when you do try and battle somebody into a corner, whether it be into turns 3, alternatively into turn 7, you have to come off racing line. And that, given how tight this circuit is and how there's only really one line to each and every corner, apart from the hairpin, it could be argued, it does mean that you end up in a situation when you go for an overtake, you come off the line, as we see Jamie Doyle there almost coming off his perfect line. And well, therefore, when you come off that racing line, it means that you're going to lose time, and the guy ahead, who you then go after, is going to disappear off up the road. Alternatively, you create a little bit of a concertina effect behind you of drivers who now want to take the place back off of you. So qualifying is going to be critical here for all of our drivers in respective classes as we continue to see our drivers making their way around. And now into the second half of this qualifying session, will we see a 54.9? I'm going to put my money on it. We're going to see one.
Plenty of time left, just shy of half of the session left, and yeah, lots of very, very important points you pointed out then, Paul. We may see another caution tonight. We saw one in race 2 of Silverstone, where going into Copse Corner on lap 2, I believe it was, in race 2. It was quite the accident we had there, quite the incident, and we may see more of them tonight. Hopefully not too many drivers' championships or races are hindered too much from any incidents tonight. Hopefully there's some great clean racing, but yeah, 35 drivers on such a small track in such competitive cars, where, as you mentioned, you get a little bit bogged down with a mistake here and there, as we see Mikey Doble go wide on the gravel trap. That's what we're going to be seeing a lot here tonight. Little mistakes like that, where it's going to drag you down the order potentially. That's what's going to win or lose a lot of these races tonight. And of course, we also have reverse grids to consider. Race 2 is a reverse grid of the top 15 based on the results of race 1, and it's a full reverse grid for race 3. So having the ability to overtake on this track is absolutely crucial, isn't that right, Paul?
Oh, indeed. And on top of that as well, we did get confirmation following round number 1, as we see Delaney there having to give way to the SDT machine that was kind of running through, and Delaney having to take to the runoff curb there in order to avoid contact with Aaron Thompson. But we have had confirmation that for race number 3, it is not a mandatory pit stop. All 3 races are sprints after the confusion, which, to be fair, did add a little bit of spice to race number 3 at Silverstone. But we are looking at sprint races for all 3 of them. And that reverse grid in particular in race number 3 is going to be such a major challenge because it's about finding that right overtaking opportunity. And for a driver like Bobby Thompson in particular, who we would expect by default, assuming he has a clean race in races 1 and 2 and results go his way, and the same for Mikey Doble, they will have this major challenge of trying to nitpick and scythe their way through the field in race number 3. And I can imagine that right now they're probably dreading the thought of that, although they'll be focusing more on their qualifying laps right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as qualifying unfolds, we're getting closer and closer to the point where we find out who is on the top spot, and no 54 just yet. But look at this time from Jamie Dory, our league host. So man deserves a round of applause every time we mention that, as he has got 35 drivers on the grid for tonight with a 50 driver entry list. Absolutely phenomenal. But he puts himself second place in qualifying right now. A big hitting time in qualifying here, and I think it is just a case of a lot of drivers not devaluing Jamie's time in any way, but what's crucial on this qualifying session is that you get a nice open track ahead of you, and a lot of these drivers just aren't getting it right now.
No, that's very true. And if you do want to pick up the toe off of another driver, or the slipstream to name it in full, where the driver in front of you is essentially punching a hole in the air and enabling you to pick up greater speed on the straights, you really want to be catching up to a driver in the run out of turn 7 down towards the hairpin at turn 9. Reason being, you've got a heavy braking zone at turn number 9, which means your braking will be compromised to a degree. You probably have to brake 5 to 10 metres earlier because you've got that overspeed from the driver in front. You don't want to knock the back of them, but in return you gain a couple of attempts on the combination of the run from 7 to 9 plus the run out of the hairpin. As we can see George Watson here making his way out the hairpin, and as he makes his way up towards the timing line, he'll get the slipstream of the renowned Mazda MX-5 ahead of him, the 199 car, and it will be the case the driver in the number 25 car behind will be looking to get a double toe here as they cross that timeline to go on to another lap. And that's the challenge here. You qualify in clear air, you're going to guarantee yourself a very strong lap, but if you can tactically get it right, try and catch that slipstream right towards the end of the lap, and you may find yourself gaining a tenth, perhaps 1.5 tenths, perhaps even 2 tenths if you really get a good toe, and that could see you jump up a good number of places. And Bobby Thompson has improved to 55.134, but we are still waiting to see whether anyone's going to creep into the 54.9s. But right now I think I'm going to be paying payment to my words in terms of saying that we'd expect a 54, because nobody's able to find it, but I believe one was notched up in practice. Now, was it Thompson or Doble who was able to do it? I can't quite remember.
I can't quite remember either. There's so much going on right now, but Bobby Thompson on an out lap, so we'll get one last stab at trying to extend his lead in qualifying right now, as we're watching Deegan Fairclough go through the chicane right now, hopping over those curbs, and a driver pulling off to the side there. Can't quite see who that is. I think that is Michael Key off on the gravel there, and a lot of drivers really hitting that outside gravel coming out of Clark Corner. We're seeing Ollie Peters move over to let by Deegan Fairclough. Let's see if this is a decent lap from Deegan. Despite running slightly wide, it doesn't detriment the lap too much. Oh, as we see Tom Delaney and Peters come very close together there. So we've got to keep an eye on most of the field here, see who jumps up to the top. The top of the pro category at the moment, overall, of course, is Bobby Thompson. Alex Denning is top of Pro-Am, and top in Am category at the moment, it is David Whitehouse. Him and Paul Scott, of course, going head-to-head in the championship as of tonight, as a result of the round 1 achievements from last week. And we're seeing Mikey Doble on a fresh lap here. So Mikey Doble, a little bit of a draft ahead of him, but mostly spurred on behind by Ollie Peters. Let's see if Mikey Doble can get himself further up the standings, i.e. onto the front row.
Well, I think he's going to have the ability to do it, and he'll have one more lap after this one. And for those wondering, by the way, is there something a bit unique about the start-finish line at Knockhill? Well, you would be correct. The start line and the finish line are not quite the same in terms of their timelines. I believe the start line is a little bit further back than the finish line, and what that does mean is that eventually this long run on the straight, well, in terms of where they'll be crossing that timeline to complete the lap, it'll be a fixed point. It's not as though it moves over the course of the lap, but it means when we go racing, we'll be seeing our drivers start a little bit further back down the straight compared to where they'll be finishing, which means there'll be plenty of overtaking opportunities on that straight, even on the final lap. But coming back to the laps being put in, it looks though Doble they're not improving on that lap as he makes his way around for the final lap here. And we're hearing that Dempsey moving up to P11 as it's all happening, but he's gone to the pits. So a lot of drivers now deciding to head to the pits here as they make their way around for their final qualifying laps.
Final few seconds in the session, so as drivers head their way to the start-finish line now. There's still a lot of drivers out there, including Jamie Dory, who's just about to cross the line. Across he goes, and it is not an improvement of his time before. Let's see who else is out there. Where is Bobby Thompson? He's on the main straight here. We've also got Mikey Doble to keep an eye out on. Oh, he was just obscured there by Tom Delaney, but was it enough to slow him down? Let's see if Mikey Doble can get further up the standings. The championship leader down to 4th as Deegan Fairclough takes 3rd place from him in the dying moments of this session. We've also got Adam Delmont on a run here. Coming out of the hairpin we go. He's 5th in the standings at the moment, only 4 thousandths behind the car in front of Mikey Doble, and he peels off to the pits. That is it for Adam Delmont. Who else have we got out there? We've got Lee Holmes here, who of course has huge success with the 88 Tech team in other MX-5 series. He's 6th at the moment. Let's see if he can improve at the end of this lap.
Based on his current trajectory, it's looking a relatively good lap for Lee Holmes in terms of his sector times are looking sharp as he makes his way through a little bit, however, a little bit of oversteer there coming out of the hairpin. I think he's going to peel into the pits, and he does indeed. It's not going to be an improvement for Holmes.
And a lot of drivers have decided to abort their laps now. Dan Rowbottoms has come across the line. A bit of damage on the front of that car there, so something's happened to him on that final lap. But there's a few drivers still finishing off a few laps here. Drivers peeling off into the pits though, including Lee Horn and the number 46 car of Mark Arrowsmith. And that is the conclusion of qualifying. So without further ado, we'll go through the grid here. On the front row is Bobby Thompson. And he, of course, got pole last time out at Silverstone as well. Jamie Dory, the league host, in 2nd, followed by Deegan Fairclough. And championship leader Mikey Doble in 4th position. 5th is taken up by Adam Delmont with Lee Holmes in 6th position. 7th goes to Pete Newman of Pure Sims Esports with Adam Mcnally of Excite iRacing in 8th. Alex Denning, 1st of the Pro-Ams, in 9th with Sam Smith in 10th. Keith Dempsey, new to the series, in 11th with Wayne Douglas, 2nd of Pro-Ams, in 12th. Craig Cockrell in 13th with Nick Clibbins in 14th. Ollie Peters in 15th. 16th to Lee Horn with James Clark in 17th. Liam Silkstone in 18th. Daniel Rowbottom in 19th with Ben Bennyworth in 20th. First of the AM category drivers is David Whitehouse in 21st with Aaron Thompson 22nd. Callum Jenkins 23rd with George Watson in 24th. Tom Delaney 25th. Paul Scott 26th. Nigel Stock 27th. 28th is Glenn Humberston. Michael Key in 29th. 30th is Mark Oliver. 31st Mark Arrowsmith. John Burnham in 32nd. Liam Tack 33rd. 34th Martin Smith and Nicky Meredith in 35th. Wow, what a grid that is. I'm going to have a sip of water now because that was quite something. But here we go for race 1 of the night, the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup Round 2 here at Knockhill. The first race of the night here at Knockhill Racing Circuit. Quite the circuit we've got indeed. As Bobby Thompson lines up at the front row there with Jamie Dory alongside. What can we expect from this first race here, Paul?
Well, I think it's going to be very tight in the run down towards turn 1 then. Conscious to give your voice, Alex, a rest as you get a sip of water. All of our drivers eager to get away from this standing start and just waiting right now. I think we're only 10 seconds away from the lights beginning to go out. And as our drivers make their way to their cars and indeed get ready to go racing, all eyes will be on our drivers on the odd number starting positions because they have that inside line to turn 1. And now we wait for the lights.
Here we go, the lights are about to show. We're about to get underway here for the first race of the night here at Knockhill. Away we go. Not a bad start from Jamie Dory in 2nd place. Bobby Thompson has to come across the defend right away from Jamie Dory. As down towards turn 1 we go. A bit of a push from Deegan Fairclough to give Bobby Thompson a hurry. Into turn 1 we go. Through the corner they go, and Bobby Thompson losing the rear end but keeping hold of it as we get through. Into turn 3 we go. Deegan Fairclough takes 2nd place, and there's a spin in the mid-pack. And that is...
We've got a number of cars spinning. That's the renowned Mazda there, the 199. There's also multiple cars. There's been a big pile up there. Dave Whitehouse right in the middle as they all try and navigate through turn 3. But it looks like somebody's got it wrong coming out of 2 and sent the car sideways into 3. And it's caused a big set of collisions there. Although everyone's now starting to get back underway. But I think there's multiple cars that have taken damage. And Martin Smith, I think, has had a major incident. And Tom Delaney has jumped to the pits out of all that.
Out of all that as well, we have a caution as the track was blocked, so a caution has been thrown. And of course, yellow flags, all too familiar with motorsport fans following the weekend's racing. We shall not mention it, but we are under a caution period, so a couple of laps here under the yellow flag. With the safety car heading out onto track right now. Bobby Thompson frantically trying to keep his tyres warm still, as temperature is very important on this very, very bumpy track. So getting the temperature into those tyres is all crucial to keep the grip in the car. Isn't that right, Paul?
Oh, indeed. And one of the things now for Bobby Thompson in particular, he got the job done down into turn 1 with Deegan Fairclough coming through behind him. Really, Deegan Fairclough should be praised as the hero at the start there for being able to have such a solid start. And what Fairclough could have tried to do is go for the move into 1 versus Thompson. As Thompson really bogged down, but instead he decided to tuck in. And now, how does this play out in terms of tyre temperatures? Well, everybody right now wants to keep the temperatures as high as possible, because when we do get rolling once again, we will no longer have that standing start situation. So it's for our leader to determine the pace effectively before we go racing when the run down towards turn number 1. As we look back to the replay here of Sam Smith, and let's see if he was involved here. It looks like Smith was turns there, and the renowned Mazda was alongside in the number 109 car, and as Smith came back onto the road, David Whitehouse was turned in, and that is where we got the obstruction really. It was less with Smith and more with Whitehouse being turned into turn 3, and then everyone, to be fair to most drivers there, being very cautious, little taps and bumps, so I don't think too much damage has been picked up by most of our drivers, fortunately. And as we get ready to go racing, well, we wait for that obstruction to clear, of course, with the safety car going around for another lap here. I think a lot of our drivers will be breathing a sigh of relief that they have managed to navigate the open lap. Those tyre temperatures will now be critical, because when they do go racing again, everybody will be looking to try and get the jump on the driver ahead of them. But now it's the case, because they're all in that single file formation here, it's not going to be as easy as a simple run down towards turn 1, and Thompson will know that. He'll know when to time that start in order to be able to try and break away or keep Fairclough behind him and use Fairclough as a buffer to Jamie Dory and Mikey Doble behind. Particularly Doble in P4 didn't really gain at the start, but he's still there and he's looking menacing.
Absolutely, and the lights are off on the safety car. We will be heading racing at the end of this lap. 3 minutes expired. There is no overtime or anything like that. 15 minutes expires, and that will signal the final lap of the race, depending on how much time is left. So here we go. Bobby Thompson leads the field towards, and Deegan Fairclough getting alongside Bobby Thompson a little bit there. Needs to be careful about that. Again, memories of yesterday, but we shan't mention it. Bobby Thompson. How many times am I going to mention it? That's the question. Drivers that have retired, David Whitehouse, Callum Jenkins, they are in the pits, but they are resuming. I believe they've got a fast repair at their disposal. But resuming to the front of the pack here, Bobby Thompson keeping up with the pace car here, not dropping back just yet. And look at all the drivers just weaving about, trying to keep their tyres warm. It's so important, as you alluded to just a moment ago. And here we go, we're about to go racing again here at Knockhill. Bobby Thompson can't go away yet. He has to remain behind the safety car, just like most racing series. Pace car will peel off now, and Bobby Thompson will eventually get the racing going, which he does. Green flag is going. And across the line they go to start, and it's a good restart from Jamie Dory, and 3 wide going down into turn 1. Mikey Doble on the inside of everyone, including Deegan Fairclough and Jamie Dory. Through the corner we go. Mikey Doble still in the middle, and Deegan Fairclough coming back on the inside. But it's Mikey Doble who takes 2 places in 2 corners there.
And Mikey Doble not waiting around for anyone then. It looked as though Thompson had a really bad start, and whilst Jamie Dory and Fairclough had the advantage, Fairclough in particular just got boxed in behind Thompson. I think it was the case, Thompson had the bad start, and then Fairclough just completely mistimed his attempt at trying to take the move there, and as a result Doble gained massively with the double toe down the straight, and as they make their way down towards the hairpin, you can see all as it was as they come charging on down. But then it's Jamie Dory who looks the inside of Doble, but I think Dory having to try and make a move whilst at the same time defend versus Fairclough. But now they've got the long start finish straight once again here, and you can see immediately Fairclough looking for the return move here, trying to get back into P3. And I think what these guys are worried about right now, particularly Fairclough and also Dory, is that if they let Doble have it his way, he'll go charging after Thompson as they come running down to turn 1. It's Fairclough on the inside, and he looks at the move as he goes over the curb there. Now can he hold it onto the inside of 3? He goes around the outside of 2 into 3, and Mikey Doble not fighting this one. And I think right now all these drivers conscious of the fact that every move they make, they'll be letting Thompson break away, and Thompson's already 1.4 seconds clear of this hunting pack as they all come charging up towards turn at number 7. Further back there we can see Holmes trying to get himself onto the back of this, along with what is Douglas and Newman, as well as the Red Bull liveried Wayne Douglas makes his way through turn number 7 here. And it's the case that our top 7 have made the break from the rest of the field, although Clibbensdale have something to say about that, as he is just trying to get away from Cockrell. Further back there in the battle for P10, I think we've got quite the side-by-side between Silverstone and Delmont as we look a bit further back. In fact, that's P11, and as they come into the braking zone, that's 2x2 hurrah with a 3 wide inside, they're behind, and Silverstone having to hold the inside line here, but this is going to be uncomfortable for Silverstone because look at the pack of drivers coming out behind right now, and anybody who's further back in that pack, such as the number 47 car there of Mcnally, he's going to get a triple toe, quadruple toe down the straight, and as they make their way out towards the braking zone for turn number 1 here, I think it is the case that right now as they go 2 by 2 into the corner, we're going to see him back and forth between these drivers with James Clark having to hold the inside into 2. There's a bit of door-to-door with number 33 Denning there, but Denning keeping the car stable, goodness me, launching over the curb there, and I think it was the case that the two of them were never going to give up the position, but in the end it is Clark who's lost out more than Denning, as Denning now makes his way through and gets it wrong there over the apex of the chicane at turn number 6. He's into the wall, and Clark with him as well. These two are inseparable as they now, well, it's the case that Denning going into the pits, and Clark I think will be sort of following suit soon after, but goodness me, it's kicked off at the back of the field already.
My word, that was quite the spectacle we watched there. And a couple of good moves thrown in there, and a couple of drivers getting a little bit out of shape with losing positions and stepping wide. And it was Alex Denning who came off worse for wear there, as it was for Ollie Peters. They revert to the pits to get a fast repair, presumably. But away we go with other drivers in the field. First, the Pro-Ams is Wayne Douglas keeping up with this top back here and pulling away from Pete Newman back in 7th place. But quite the race so far from Wayne Douglas, who was quite the popular character in our Legends Cup series just a few months ago, doing very well here in his 2nd race of the championship. Tom Delaney is top at the AM category at the moment, 24th outright, the 1st in category, but still at the top. 1.5 seconds clear. It's not comfortable at the moment, but it's Bobby Thompson in the top spot.
Oh, indeed, and at this point now, a lot of our drivers, as they go beyond the halfway point of this race, they'll all be hoping now that we're not going to be seeing another safety car, because they're all in the rhythm. Unless you're right at the back of the field right now and out of position, it will be the case that most drivers will just be settling in here, because the thing about Knockhill is whether you're doing 15 minutes, alternatively 15 hours around here, it's one of those situations whereby consistency is so key. And we say that time and time again about every circuit our drivers go to, but really here, because you're getting 1 millimetre or 1 inch wrong going over a curb, and you're going to be launching the car into the distance, as we see Doble already putting that pressure on. And meanwhile, Rowbottom here in P8, well, the Halfords Racing driver Cataclean keeping it nice and smart right now, but Clibbing started. Oh, goodness me, and what on earth happened there?
Well, that was
odd, wasn't it?
Well, take a replay of that. That's what you call a sim racing glitch across the curve, and it just comes to a stop. Well, I can't explain that one. That's very, very uncharacteristic on iRacing, and it ends Dan Rowbottom's race. And I was just about to comment that he had gained 11 places to that moment, and no fault of his own, race ended. An invisible bollard of some description, but yeah, I'm speechless.
Well, I think for Rowbottom right now, he is not going to be a happy man, because he's got 2 more races after this one, but I think that is going to be a sign of potential things to come for other drivers here. Now, hopefully that is just a one-off rare occurrence, because normally in the simulator, whilst glitches can occur, we don't want to see things like that, as we see somebody going a little bit wide off the road there going into turn number 3, and I think it was the case that they have dropped down the order now. Who was it? There they are, and that's Glenn Humberstone, the 88 Tech driver, who's jumped to the pits, and that means we are starting to see a number of drivers come back to the pits right now. We've got 26 drivers still running as far as I understand, but as they all make their way around, and Humberstone, they're just getting it wrong. The rear coming unsettled into turn number 3, and as a result hitting the wall hard, and now he is back in the pits. As we continue to look at the live pictures here, and Jamie Dory trying to put that pressure on, but you can see now how the top 4 are just starting to open up a little bit, and if anything, after a strong start from Dory, he's starting to fall backwards into homes, and I'm wondering whether Dory's gone too soon in terms of he's trying to put so much effort into those opening laps that now he's starting to feel the pinch, and perhaps trying to preserve himself for race number 2, because it really is the case that Holmes and also Douglas, who we shouldn't count out, are both closing up to him gradually.
Absolutely, you can do that in these MX-5s. You can push the tyres a little bit too hard too early. You have to be super smooth with the car, whilst you can throw it around a little bit. Smoothness is the key, as we see the number 38 car pulling off to be lapped there. That was can't quite see who that was, but being lapped, that was not a loss of position for anyone there. But let's see what else is going on elsewhere on the circuit. The biggest mover of the field is plus 10 positions for Michael Key up to 19th place, and we also have John Burnham up 10 places to 22nd. So good showing from them drivers at the moment. But it is Ben Bennyworth in probably one of the best positions in the house, apart from first, of course. Ben Bennyworth, if he finishes where he is right now, gets reverse grid pole for race 2.
Oh, indeed. I think Bennyworth at this point will be thinking, oh, goodness, we've got it all going wrong there for multiple drivers. That's Clibbins involved. I think also there we've also got what looks to be Silverstone getting it wrong. And I think there's been an incident between 3 drivers into turn number 2 as they came over the crest from 1 and down into 2. They've all come together. Well, so that's it moments ago. And that's Mark Oliver there, just going slowly, coming out of turn number 1. And as a result, I think our drivers coming over the crest of the apex of turn 1 didn't see Oliver. And as a result, all 3 drivers coming together, and that is very unfortunate. But there's still plenty of other opportunities here, but not the way those drivers would have wanted their race number 1 to go.
Certainly not. And credit to Mark Oliver, he was trying to pull over to let everyone by, but it probably wasn't the best part of the track to remain on the track. As drivers going wide coming out of turn 1, it just collected the likes of I think it was Liam Silverstone, Nick Clibbins and Adam McNally. And yeah, it just caused a little bit of drama in the mid-sector there, but that promotes a few drivers up a few positions. Some have fallen down. Keith Dempsey into 15th place, and it looks fairly secure for 15th at the moment. Which is
not secure. Our leader right now, who's got huge pressure coming from Deegan Fairclough, as they make their way down towards turn number 9 and under braking now. I think Thompson's made a mistake, so that gap's come down massively, and Fairclough's going to go round the outside, and the hairpin as Doble gets it very deep into their hairpin as they come charging out, and that's a side-by-side drag racing with only 3 laps to go, including the final lap. It's the case as they go on to another lap here. Fairclough on the outside, Thompson on the inside, under braking they go here. Now, is Fairclough going to try and hold it around the outside? No, I don't think so, because that would be a little bit risky. But instead what he does, he cuts back in here for the outside into 3, and he's looking for this continuous strain of cutbacks. And as they make their way through, Fairclough into the air, and as they make their way through, Thompson not wide. Both drivers survive it, but now Fairclough, I'm wondering there, oh goodness me, as Doble gets it a bit wrong and taps Thompson, and Bobby Thompson in the wars right now. And well, I think Thompson's going to be absolutely fuming with that.
I think Thompson had to slow down to surf, but I think Mikey Doble lost control of his car a little bit there, coming off the chicane. But look, we got to try and see that again between Fairclough and Bobby Thompson, as that was a big move across the curb from Fairclough, which put Thompson off the track and had to serve a slow down penalty. Bobby Thompson, who started this race from pole and has led much of the race, now down in 5th place, has it all to do in these final few moments of the race. I presume we've got about 2 laps to go, as we see a car pull off to the side to let other drivers by. I think that's Nigel Stock letting these drivers through. But Deegan Fairclough, our race leader, and he won many races last season in the Legends Cup, currently leading this race and on his way to victory, as we saw Jamie Dory in 3rd place get very loose coming out of turn 3, and there's a car slowing to the side there. I think it was actually a back marker, so we'll resume to the front here. Plenty going on here as we have 1 more lap to go upon the completion of this one. Fairclough lead, Doble 2nd, Dory 3rd, Holmes 4th, and Thompson 5th. There is your battle. And we have Thompson at the inside of Holmes here, heading towards the hairpin. Can Thompson get himself back onto the podium spot really late on the brakes? And he touches Jamie Dory. He's almost sent Jamie Dory round, and he miraculously saves it. Thompson is still going to continue to try and take 3rd place as Fairclough starts his final lap here at Knockhill. We have Thompson on the inside trying to take back a podium place here.
Indeed, as the white flag's waving right now, I think for Thompson, he might be seeing a little bit of red here and thinking, okay, it's time for elbows out, given what happened on the previous lap. Was he makes his way down through 3. You can definitely see now the beast within's being unleashed here, because he's absolutely flying. And Deegan Fairclough, to be fair, now being hounded by Doble as they make their way through 6 and up into 7. Now, what's Fairclough got to do? He's got to try and nail this exit out of 7, because if he doesn't, he's going to be very, very vulnerable in the run to the finish line as they come down towards the hairpin right now through the left-hander of 8 and now into the braking zone. Now, will Doble go early here and look for the move, or will he go deep and look for the straight line on the exit? He's going to go deep here, and I think Doble is going to go for the long run to the finish line. Deegan Fairclough does park it on the exit there, and as they make their way across, you can see Fairclough moving up onto the left-hand side there to blocks as they come to the finish line. It is going to be Deegan Fairclough who is going to take that checkered flag when all is said and done, ahead of Doble, Thompson in P3, Dory P4, Holmes P5, Newman P6, and Douglas taking, I believe, that is the the win in the Pro class, unless I'm mistaken, in P7 ahead of Delmont, Cockrell and Mcnally completing our top 10. And well, outside our top 10 right now, it's Aaron Thompson who takes that P11 ahead of Lee Horn, Dempsey, Bennyworth and Clark. Well, as Clark's made his way across that line in P15, Watson P16, and it's going to be Smith, Clibbons, Delaney, as Delaney's just drag racing his way away from Silverstone right now. He crosses the line there, and it's going to be Silverstone completing our top 20. And I believe in the end, Burnham and Scott completing our finishing order of 22 cars. Only 22 making it home on the lead lap there.
Well, that's not many at all, considering we had 35 drivers start this race, but we saw dramas all across the field in that race. And reverse grid poll will go to James Clark as he finished in 15th, and we'll shortly round up the results. In fact, we'll do it now. In P1, that's our qualifying results, so revert to the race. I have no idea why it does that. Gremlins in the system. Deegan Fairclough takes the win here for race 1 of the night and his first win of the season. Mikey Doble with another brilliant result for him, which will further help his championship in the pro category. Bobby Thompson taking 3rd place in the dying moments, led most of the race, dropped to 5th, but got it back into 3rd on the final few laps of the race. Jamie Dory with 4th place, Lee Holmes in 5th. 6th place to Pete Newman, and in 7th position is the first in the Pro-Am category, Wayne Douglas. Adam Delmont in 8th position with Craig Cockrell in 9th, Adam McNally in 10th, Aaron Thompson in 11th with Lee Horn taking 12th place, Keith Dempsey in 13th place, Ben Bennyworth in 14th, and James Clark, as we mentioned, 15th, which is reverse grid pole position. 16th goes to George Watson with Sam Smith in 17th. Nick Clibbons will take 18th from Tom Delaney, who got first in the AM category, respectively, in the race. 20th, rounding off the top 20, is Liam Silkstone with John Burnham and Paul Scott rounding off the finishers on the lead lap, 21st and 22nd. Of the drivers off the lead lap, Michael Key, Nigel Stock, Liam Tack, David Whitehouse, Dan Rowbottom, Ollie Peters, Alex Denning, Glenn Humberston, Mark Arrowsmith, Mark Oliver, Callum Jenkins, Martin Smith and Nicky Meredith rounding off the 35 drivers in this race. Well, what a race we had. That was race 1 of the night for round 2 of the championship here at Knockhill for the NXTGEN Racing MX-5 Cup Series. So, Paul, sit rep.
So the quick sit rep would be, we had quite a bit of carnage into turns 1 through to 3. To be fair, most of our drivers navigated it well, but a safety car was brought out there with a caution due to the obstruction, and we saw a couple of drivers have to go to the pits. But after that, when we went racing, it was the case that Bobby Thompson seemed to gain a significant advantage, only for that advantage to be reeled in, and it was through some elbows out action by our eventual winner, Deegan Fairclough, as they tried to navigate their way around through turns 3 through to 6, which saw Deegan Fairclough come ahead with the upper hand, and in the end hold off Mikey Doble to take the win, and Bobby Thompson having to fight back to get himself into that P3 and on to the podium. But outside that, we shouldn't forget there's other classes other than our pros, and particularly in the Pro-Am, the fact that we did see that very, very strong performance from what was our driver of Wayne Douglas, who in the end was with our leaders for the majority race and finished P7. And also a number of our AM drivers having a difficult day at the office, but none so for Tom Delaney in the end coming home in P19. And really, I think this has set the tone for what is race number 2 coming up soon, where there's going to be plenty more action ahead.
And we're just looking at this incident again between Bobby Thompson and Deegan Fairclough. Deegan going across the curb there, and it just spits him out wide, and Bobby Thompson taking to the outside there. Really, really tricky here, and this is exactly what you said in the pre-show, where drivers that, have a little mistake here or there, get bogged down, they drop multiple positions, and this is how we saw Bobby Thompson drop to 5th place, and that is really what we're looking at tonight at Knockhill. We will shortly switch over to the next server. We've got someone in the comments, Katie Eames. Welcome back, Katie. Good to see you again. Yeah, Dan, what happened to Dan Rowbottom? Well, I think I've got a replay of it here. We'll see if this was it. In fact, I'm not even sure that was. It might have been a little bit later on. We'll see him come across the chicane here. No, it wasn't then. It was a little bit later on. But basically, Dan Rowbottom had an incident where he hit an invisible item of some sort, and that ended his race. I've never seen that on iRacing before. It was Very strange indeed, but that's what ended his race, unfortunately. But your race winner tonight for race 1 was Deegan Fairclough, with Mikey Doble in 2nd and 3rd place Bobby Thompson. We will go for a quick break now, but when we come back it will be race 2 of the night. This is the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup, presented to you by Crest Autosport, Next Gen Racing and TX141. We'll be back very shortly, don't go away.
You make me wanna talk back to you. Say it like that. If I hate you, then find someone new. Baby, but you know I never will. No, so I choke you down just like a pill. Say sorry. Oh, maybe I'll leave. Baby, but you know I never will. No, so I choke you down just like a pill. We are dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust. Search but you stay lost. We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this too hard. And I wonder where you are. Mysterious, that's the part you always
Welcome back, everyone, to Knockhill in Scotland for the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup. Round 2 of the championship here at Knockhill, and this is race 2 coming up very, very shortly. We saw a very dramatic race 1, of which the win was taken by Deegan Fairclough in the end. But quite the dramatic race indeed, Paul.
Oh, indeed, a very dramatic race. And now with race number 2 only just around the corner, you can imagine the ante's going to be up. So I think the gloves are now going to start coming off as our drivers go into race number 2. They kept it relatively smart and sensible, but now I think with positions on the line and that all reverse grid awaiting our drivers come race number 3, it's going to be all about trying to get the maximum number of points out of race number 2, because overtaking here comes at such a premium. And with the partial reverse grid of the top 15 places, you can imagine our drivers in that top 15 in particular will want to try and get the maximum possible result out of this one.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the track temperature a little bit hotter this time, partially cloudy and a bit of a higher humidity. So Jamie is mixing things up a little bit with this session here. So and a really high wind speed as well. So we might see that come into play. It might well be a wind that either slows cars down the main straight, or the two main straights, or even speed them up. I can't quite tell what direction the wind is actually going. Let's take a look to our trusted weather app on the side of our screen here. So we have got we haven't got a directional on the wind, so never mind what I'm saying there. But high wind speeds might be quite significant to these cars as they're pushed along certain parts of the track here at Knockhill. But we're about to get go for it, Paul.
So go on. I was going to say, with regards to winds, one of the things our drivers have to get wary of is the fact that if that wind changes direction midway through the race, particularly through some of the more tricky corners, such as the chicane at 5-6, they may find they can't carry as much speed through the corner, or they can attack the corner a bit more. Wind can always catch a driver out over the course of even a 15-minute race.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're about to get underway for race 2 of the night. It is a reverse 15 of the results from race 1, of which we'll go through the grid very, very shortly. But drivers getting a little bit of warm-up done before we start things off here. There's a few less drivers this time around. So I did see in Discord there was a couple of drivers having hardware issues, which of course is not good at all. Really does put a dampener on your racing, and particularly in other series as well. But we're about to get underway, and the grid presented to you by Paul Walsh himself.
Alrighty then, so as we build up for race number 2, starting on pole will be Lee Horn, and it will be the opportunity for Horn to get the best possible result he can going into this one. Starts on pole, and alongside him will be Aaron Thompson. Our second row, Adam Mcnally and Craig Cockrell, the two pro drivers there, find themselves in a good position to go racing from the start. Adam Delmont and Wayne Douglas on row number 3, with Wayne Douglas, of course, being our winner in the Pro-Am race in race number 1. A great opportunity for him to get some major points on the board as well. Pete Newman and Lee Holmes completing row number 4, with Jamie Jamie Dory and Bobby Thompson behind them. Then Mikey Doble and Deegan Fairclough lining up on our 6th row there. And I believe we might be looking at a reverse grid of just the top 12 once again. I think that has occurred once again. Deegan Fairclough being our winner in race number 1. Outside of our top 12 now on row number 7, and Keith Dempsey and Ben Bennyworth on the 7th row, with James Clark and George Watson behind them, Sam Smith and Nick Clemens on row number 9, before Tom Delaney and Liam Silverstone. And I'm going to cut away there because I think we are going for the race.
Yes, we are. The race about to start here at Knockhill. Race 2 of the night is underway. And a good start for Lee Horn, it seems there. He's going to cut across and get over to the left-hand side of the track here on the main straight as we head now into Duffers Dip. Lee Horn leads the race from Aaron Thompson and Adam McNally in 3rd place. There's a few less drivers side by side as we head through the dip now. Into turn 3 we go. Looking at Wayne Douglas here in the Red Bull styled livery. And so far so good for most drivers. 31 drivers out of the 35 that started race 1. And it seems so far so good. As we look into the mid-pack, drivers filtering through very, very safely indeed. Oh, but there is an incident at the back. Callum Jenkins spins off into the tyre wall there and does keep it going. Let's just see what happened to Callum Jenkins. In fact, we didn't get to see what happened to Callum Jenkins. A bit of a delay on that replay there. But Aaron Thompson takes the lead from Lee Horn. Something happened to Lee as he drops down to 4th place. And we'll see if we can take a look at what actually happened to Lee Horn. It's very strange indeed. He just seems to have dropped from 4th straight to 1st in a blink of an eye there.
Oh, indeed, but as the drive's gone to another lap now, a much calmer start by comparison. We're just looking at what happened to Lee Horn and going very slow. Did he have a slowdown? Yeah,
slowdown penalty it seems. Might have cut the corner a little bit too much at the top of the hill there through Clark. But down to 4th place he goes, and it is kicking off at the front here. Oh, the Excite car of it. Adam McNally going wide. Delmont almost pushing him along, saying, come on, teammate, let's get a move on here. And they get through safely. But down the main straight here, let's see if we're going to see any moves going into the hairpin, Paul.
Well, I think it may be the case that Delmont, if he's held there for too long, he will try and get a message through to his teammates to get a move on. But looking further back in the battle for what is P6 there, I think we've got 4 wide almost kicking off here. We have indeed got a 2x2, as that's Bobby Thompson in the rear of ground, as we see Lee Holmes there side by side with what is not Jamie Dory, who's a bit further back, but side by side with Newman, and Newman getting the better runners. We've got that looks to be one of the Manston spun on the corner there, and that is Sam Smith, who's now going to be rejoining at the back of the field as he waits for drivers to come on through there. David Whitehouse as well, making his way on through it. And let's just take a look what happened to Smith since he was coming down to the braking zone here. It looks like there's a bit of a scramble. The number 194 car looking to the inside, and in the end just a small tap on the rear causing Smith to go for a spin. He went into the gravel and the car just gave him no traction whatsoever as we return to live pictures here. And it does look as though now, well, Bobby Thompson trying to save his way through, but Thompson I think has dropped down the order quite considerably. Has he been involved in an incident?
Yes,
because he's now P19.
Yeah. Yes, he has. Bobby Thompson has gone off track. Oh!
Goodness me, that was that Deegan Fairclough going over the bump massively? That was number 87 car?
Oh, he's hit by another car and goes straight across the track. That would have been real frightening if that was real life. We'll see if we can take a replay here again. 199 car of... I can't work out who's in the 199 car there, but it just absolutely sends Deegan Fairclough off the track. And he was really a passenger in that, it's got to be said. But at the front here, Adam McNally takes it away from Aaron Thompson. We are missing quite a lot here as there's so much going on. But this was the pass for the lead from Adam McNally. 3 wide going down the main straight here with Adam Delmont on his inside, helping him out a little bit. And Adam McNally gets into the lead through Duffers Dip there, as it was quite the battle for the top 4 there. And we resume it here. Adam McNally goes very wide there, and that might well be a slowdown penalty for him, running a bit too wide. Or has he got away with that? I think he might have. But Lee Horn back into 2nd place here. See if he can get back into that top spot that he started with.
Oh, indeed. I think for Lee Horn right now, after what was a difficult start, to be fair, he's controlled this one in terms of bringing the race back to him. I think he's got to be grateful for the fact that McNally and Delmont have been trying to work together to push their way past Thompson. And when I say push it, trying to get both of the cars, both of the Excite cars, into those lead positions. But of course, when you're trying to set something up like that and you go for the move, that gives the drivers behind, as we said earlier in the show, it gives the drivers behind a major opportunity to catch up at Knockhill. And Lee Horn right now really trying to breathe down the neck of McNally, going a bit too high on the curb there at turn 3, and almost losing the rear left tyre as he went off the gravel coming out of the exit of 3, and as they make their way through the chicane here, it does look as though Horn really pushing it to limit a lot of drivers, as we are hearing that Holmes has had a bit of a run off there. Indeed, it will Pete Newman making his way up through the order right now. He just got past Douglas as they come out of 7 here, and a lot of drivers making places. Douglas trying to find his way to get a move in. Of course, he will want to get a move on Douglas because he's got Thompson and Horn just up the road, but as they come down to the hairpin here, it is the case that Lee Horn keeping that pressure on, and meanwhile we have got Newman trying to get a move on here as we all goodness me, and that's Holmes being turned there, and I believe that was contact with Cockrell unless I'm mistaken.
I think it was Mikey Doble actually. I think that was Mikey Doble he made contact with. We'll see if we can get a quick replay of that. But yeah, Lee Holmes having an instant, I think it was with Mikey Doble. So here we go down the main straight again. Following Lee Holmes down here. And it was Doble taking a look to the inside, and the door just closes, and really Mikey Doble didn't have much of his car alongside there, so Lee Holmes really wouldn't have expected that. But he resumes way down the order in 22nd. Mikey Doble resumes in 9th place, but quite the instant, happy race at the moment, but with Adam Mcnally at the front in the Pro category, followed by 2nd place overall, but first in the Pro-Am category, Lee Horn, who is just been crowned the NXTGEN Racing Race Room League's champion, the World Touring Car Challenge host with NXTGEN Racing and Crest Autosport. He was the champion crowned last Thursday, and now he is looking to crown himself the winner of this race by the looks of it, contending with the Excite iRacing drivers of Delmont and Mcnally. Delmont has the inside going into Duffers Dip. Through we go. Lee Horn holding the outside very, very well there and keeps it going in 2nd place as Thompson looked to the inside of Delmont. Delmont gave a little room just in case, but resumes in 3rd place. But all this battling between these 4 drivers is allowing Pete Newman, who we all know is very, very quick in these MX-5s, closing in on this top 4 as Aaron Thompson gets very loose coming out of the chicane. Pete Newman draws in as we get onto the main section of the track. We're overtaking his prime, Paul.
Oh, indeed. I think at this point, Newman's now looking for that opportunity at any moment as they come down towards the hairpin, but Newman placing the car just alongside and then ducking to the inside here, deciding to send it in. Now, has Newman gone too early? Because you can see there that Thompson has gone for the cutback as they make their way down the straight. Now, it's a drag race here, and the camera right now in the cockpit of Thompson, which is great to give you an idea of how they're drag racing down. In fact, as we switch to Newman, you should see very shortly as they come together and how close the 2 cars are as they make their way through turn number 1. Side by side, it goes to show you if you give one another enough racing room, you can make it through turn 1 side by side. But in the end, Newman getting the position here, and Thompson going a bit too high on the apex curve at turn number 3. And I think he's got to be careful in the number 141 car. We've seen him a number of times go high at turn 3, and every time it's bounced the car into a position where he doesn't seem to be able to get it back under control as smoothly as he would like. Although be fair to the Triple B racing driver right now, he's in P2 in cars, he's got Wayne Douglas behind him, so even if it was to finish as it currently stands, it's going to be a good points haul from him from this race. As Delmont, meanwhile, trying to get that move here on Horn, and Delmont just not able to find it, although I said he's going to look for it here very late under braking. Lee Horn's going to turn him, but he's going to find a face full of Mazda on the inside, and as they make their way out to turn 9, now it's going to be a drag race down to turn 1, but I think at this point Delmont's cracked, he got the move done, albeit it's the case that Horn's creeping ahead here, and you can see Mcnally pulling off the racing line briefly there at a camera shot to give his teammate effectively a bit of a tow down the straight as they make their way through, and you can see Horn went to keep the position, but in the end Delmont able to squeeze through, but it was a brave move by Delmont, and I think Mcnally just trying to give him every little bit he could as Lee Horn goes a bit wide out of 3, but keeps it together, driving right on the ragged edge here. And the thing for Lee Horn, for those viewing right now, does he need to be doing this? No, but he wants to keep Newman between himself and Thompson, because Thompson right now, the 2nd place Prime driver, is only just round the corner behind, and he will not want to have Thompson all over the back of him as they go into the 2nd half of this race.
Drivers who did particularly well in race 1, including Mikey Doble and Jamie Dory, they're up to 8th and 9th position, and they're closing in on the top 7 here. Mikey Doble defends the inside from Jamie Dory. Oh, slightly had the inside of Keith Dempsey there. Keith Dempsey up 6 places, having a very good race here, but biggest mover of the field, Alex Denning, who did not have a good race 1, is up into 13th place, up 15 places so far in this race. A brilliant showing from him. And remember, it is a full reverse grid for race 3, so any driver that finishes on the lead lap here will be reversed to form the grid for the next race. And Excite Racing, well, they must be very excited back at the factory, as it is a 1-2 for them at the moment, and they are stretching their lead.
Indeed, and with Lee Horn behind effectively trying to keep Newman between himself and Thompson as he goes wide there out of 7. And again, I think Horn at this point needs to think about turning down the wick, even if it's just briefly, because he's making a lot of unenforced errors right now as they come down to the braking zone for 9. And you can see here Newman going up the inside. I think Horn's now decided, you know what, I've pushed it too hard. I'm going to use Newman to pull me along and try to keep me safe here from Thompson and Douglas behind, because Horn doesn't need to overdrive the cars. We see David Whitehouse there in the crippled MX-5 making his way into the pits with the front end damage, and I think that's going to be his race brought to an early end as they make their way onto another lap here. And really, Whitehouse right now not in a happy place, as you can see in the camera, the whole front bumper sheared off of the Seesaw Digital Racing machine. As we look back to live pictures right now, it is the case that Thompson really pushing on in the hunt for P4 as Mcnally goes a bit wide out of turn number 6, and as he makes his way into 7, Mcnally pushing hard as well. And I think at this point the Excite drivers both trying to contend to be the fastest of the two of them, both in the Pro Championship, and they'll both want the maximum possible points they can get out of this one. But of course, the one thing you don't do in motorsport is take out your teammate.
Absolutely, and speaking of teammates, these two working very well indeed at the front, and there's only less than 5 minutes to go in this session. But Adam Mcnally is at the circuit that you could probably call closest to home. He lives in Newcastle, Scotland not being too far from him, and he does venture up to Knockhill every now and again. And Adam Mcnally, I remember back in the BSR days, we used to call him Adam Not Scottish Mcnally, as for some reason people thought he was Scottish. I have no idea why, but hey ho. But yeah, this will feel like a home win almost for Adam Mcnally if he can secure this. But he has got his teammate behind. Now here's the big question. Are the Excite iRacing drivers going to battle, or are they going to see this out to the end and take a 1-2? They have got Pete Newman charging behind, and Pete Newman really is racking in the laps at the moment. He's stretched away from Lee Horn and is getting closer to the two drivers at the front.
Indeed, I think Newman with this pace right now, if I was in Delmont's position, what I would be thinking about is, okay, what's the delta to Newman and how quick is it coming down? Because we're just under 4 minutes to go right now. We're looking at another 4 laps after the one we're currently on. What it would mean is essentially with that gap being just under 1.1 seconds right now, and it is coming down gradually with Newman getting that distant toe off the back of the Mazdas ahead of him as they go onto these 4 remaining laps. I think if Delmont feels as though he's being held up, he will try and force a move through into the hairpin, or he's going to send it and then let Mcnally come back at him. But it will be the case that's to send the message through. Look, you are taking too long to get around the circuit right now, and we've got somebody behind us is coming up fast, and otherwise we're compromised and we'll be losing that 1-2.
Absolutely. And I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to one driver a little further down the field, 23rd place at the moment, Mark Arrowsmith. This is his first league race ever on iRacing. He only bought iRacing just a few days ago. So he's side by side with Sam Smith. Welcome to iRacing, Mark. Back up the inside. Wow, good battling from Mark Arrowsmith here. But a newcomer to iRacing, what an introduction he's having here, and he's second in category. Brilliant so far for him. But at the front, Wayne Douglas caught up in a bit of a kerfuffle with Keith Dempsey as Mikey Doble filters through into 6th overall and 4th in category. But at the front, it's still getting closer between Pete Newman, Delmont and Mcnally.
Oh, indeed, and as they make their way around, and well, quickly coming back to what we were saying with regards to Arrowsmith there, he may be brand new to the competitive scene on iRacing, but he's not showing it. He is showing to be fearless right now, and as they make their way on around, I think for Arrowsmith, one of the things he'll be thinking about is just simply now getting that result on the board. But then looking at the battle here, and here it comes from Delmont. They go into turn 7, a bit of an unconventional overtaking spot here. I wouldn't have expected him to go for the move on Mcnally, and look how much time this has cost them.
Bad idea, because Pete Newman is on the charge now. That has slowed down the two drivers, and now Pete Newman's on the attack. To the outside he goes. Mcnally's trying to block him. Contact, and they're going in onto the gravel, and Pete Newman's in the tyres.
I think there it was the case. I would say that when Mcnally just trying to squeeze Newman onto the outside there, and it was just a small bit of contact, and it was going to be inevitable if you try squeezing the driver on your outside that much, and Newman would argue he had his nose in there, but in the end the two of them making contact, and well, I think that's going to be one that's going to go to the stewards afterwards, because that wound up breaking as well is a bit of an unfortunate incident for the pair of them.
It absolutely is, but Mcnally continues on. I think Pete Newman might have reverted to the pits. See if we can find him in the... Yeah, Pete Newman and Mcnally have reverted to the pits. That sends Delmont away. Free to take the victory here. All he has to do is get it to the end here. He was not involved in that incident at all. But it all stemmed off Delmont going for the move on Mcnally, which isolated them, put them in trouble from Newman back there, which ultimately ended up resulting in the incident that happened, as we see Mikey Doble with a big move on the inside of Keith Dempsey, trying to sneak up the inside of Aaron Thompson. But we still got Lee Horn leading the Pro-Am category, facing off here against Aaron Thompson. They started side by side, and they're continuing to battle here as the white flag waves for the final lap here, Paul.
Oh, indeed. I think Horn at this point, he's just got one more lap to go. He doesn't need to do anything magical now. Just keep the car smart. One thing I did notice as we saw our drivers there braking into the turn 9 hairpin, Mikey Doble's rear brake discs are glowing hot. He is really working those brakes hard right now, and he may have to take a look at changing those brakes going into the third race, because they all come charged on through right now. Locking up these brakes is going to be a disaster. We can see Thompson there getting it very wrong, coming out of 6th, and in 7th, and Doble gliding in there, literally coming from so far back, and surely Thompson must be having a heart attack in the cockpit of that car right now, because Doble just has no fear whatsoever as he makes his way down towards turn number 9. And as they come charging into the braking zone here, Doble going defensive as they come on through, line up those rear brakes. But meanwhile, at the head of the pack, 2.8 seconds clearing to take the checker flag, it will be Adam Delmont from iRacing Blue as he makes way across the line. Lee Horn holds on to P2 in the end, a brilliant drive from the next gen Racing Orange driver, and it's Dempsey in P3, Doble P4, and Aaron Thompson coming home in P5. There's Jamie Dory P6, Clibbins P7, Denham P8, then Clark, Bennyworth, Silverstone, Cockrell, Thompson, Peters and Delaney completing your top 15, with Tom Delaney being our winner as we look at him now in the AM class in race number 2, and then complete our top 20, Deegan Fairclough ahead of Watson, Holmes, Smith, and then last but not least our top 20, Jenkins rounding off that P20 position. But for Delmont right now, well, Alex, you have to imagine what's going through his head. It must be mixed emotions. Not only taken the win, but in the way, him trying to make the move on his teammates, saw his teammates race come to an abrupt end right towards the end.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm going to try and reel us back to take a little replay of that just to see the whole scenario there. So Mcnally going wide, and that let through Adam Delmont, and that slows them both down. And look at Pete Newman here, just charged towards the 2. He decides to go left, gets it alongside Adam Delmont and pretty much pass. Goes to take the left side, and Mcnally closes the door just before the braking zone, and they just came together. It's hard to tell who turned in on who during the braking zone, but it was definitely a case that Newman had pretty much zero room on the left there, and it was an instant waiting to happen given how much room they were giving each other.
Oh, indeed. I think it will be the case that going into race 3, they'll be very wary of that. I think for Newman, it was one of those situations where I think he could have got both moves done at once or set himself up very well as we just take a look back from his perspective. But one of the questions you could ask, of course, and being independent here, so the stewards decide this one, was he a little bit impatient at looking for this move? He saw an opportunity, yes, and I think he thought, okay, I can make the 2 of them here and go all the way out to that left-hand side. But that door, I think, was always going to gradually close as all 3 drivers came together, and the contact in the end will Newman, I think it's a bit of an unfortunate one, but he will take that on board going into race number 3 and think if he's in that situation again going towards turn 9 and he's on that outside, don't force the issue, because forcing the issue there I think cost him an opportunity of a potential win come the checkered flag. Absolutely,
yes. Well, it's one for the stewards, it's one for the drivers to reflect on, but there is another race to go tonight, a 25-minute feature race. Without further ado, here are the race results. Over to you, Paul.
Okay, so after the second race here at Knockhill, it's the case that Adam Delmont in the end taking the win by 3 seconds over Lee Horn, and then Lee Horn in P2, and Will Dempsey coming home in P3. But it should be pointed out Lee Horn there finishing our winner in the Pro-Am class, whereas Adam Delmont was our overall winner and our winner in the Pro class. Outside the top 3, Mikey Doble P4, he'll be pleased with that result, no doubt. Aaron Thompson P5, second place in Pro-Am, and a good result there from Thompson. Jamie Dory P6, Nick Clibbins P7, Alex Denning P8, James Clark P9, and Ben Bennyworth completing our top 10. Outside the top 10, Liam Silkstone ahead of Craig Cockrell, and then Bobby Thompson recovering to P13 in the end. But I think the number 19 driver there will not be best pleased with the fact he finished outside the top 10 in that race. And there was Ollie Peters coming P14, and then completing our top 15, Tom Delaney in the 555 car there, the SVP of Motorsport with Sunday Drivers driver, taking the win in the AM class. And I think it's going to be a very happy day down at the garage for him and the team. Deegan Fairclough George Watson and Lee Holmes completing our top 18. As we look further down at the order in terms of our finishing results, it's the case our top 20 completed by Sam Smith and Callum Jenkins. Outside that, Nigel Stock P21, Paul Scott P22, John Burnham, Mark Arrowsmith and Wayne Douglas down to P25, Glenn Humberstone in the end finishing a lap down in P26, Pete Newman in P27 a lap down as well, Adam Mcnally P28, and as we come towards the end of the board, Liam Tack, David Whitehouse and Michael Key all having very difficult races and seeing them finishing well off of the lead lap in the end with damage and instance. And Michael Key in particular not being able to complete, as far as I'm aware, a single lap of the race with the damage that was taken to the car, unless I'm mistaken.
There are your results of race 2 here at Knockhill. This is the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup round 2 at Knockhill. I've been Alex Everett and Paul Walsh alongside me. We will come back for race 3 very, very shortly. It's a 25-minute feature race and a full reverse grid. We'll be back very shortly. Don't go away, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back everyone to Knockhill for the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup round 2 of the championship, and we've got race 3 coming for you very shortly. It will be a 25-minute feature race right here, right now, for the final race of the night. And coming up next week for this championship, 1 week from today, we'll be at the Red Bull Ring Spielberg in Austria. So do tune in a week from today to catch that action as it happens live. And please do give us a like, share, follow and or subscribe on whatever channel you are watching from, so you can stay up to date with the MX-5 series here on Crest Autosport TV, whether that's Twitch or YouTube, or via Next Gen Racing on Facebook, whichever platform you are watching on. And here we go for the final race of the night. Paul, we've got about 30 seconds, bit of a sit rep, and what to expect.
So full reverse grid, overtaking the opportunities difficult, no pit stops, 25 minutes of all-out racing action. Expect there to be moves, our most conventional places, turns 1 and also 9, and also expect there to be some daring moves between drivers of different classes, particularly the pros and the proms trying to make their way through the field. And keep your eyes on the chicane at turns 5 and 6. I'm expecting we are going to see some cars flying there, and hopefully, and not off the circuit, but flying high and gaining positions along the way.
I think you've hit it absolutely bang on right there. So let's see what happens. A full reverse grid, so it means a lot of the drivers who've been fairly lower down in the order today of getting a good crack at the whip to try and get themselves all the glory of the top spot in this race, the final race of the night. So we'll go through the grid now, and the grid for this race, it is David Whitehouse lineup on the pole position in the Duck Song car, and in second position is Liam Tack. Pete Newman third place, a little bit of redemption might well be in for him. Third place on the grid there with Glenn Humberston in fourth position. Fifth place taken up by Wayne Douglas with Mark Arrowsmith in sixth position on his debut to iRacing. John Burnham in seventh with Paul Scott in eighth, Nigel Stock in ninth. Callum Jenkins lines up 10th alongside with Sam Smith and Lee Holmes on the 6th row. George Watson and Deegan Fairclough 13th and 14th. 15th to Tom Delaney. Ollie Peters in 16th. Bobby Thompson in 17th with Craig Cockrell in 18th. Liam Silkstone in 19th. Ben Bennyworth 20th. James Clark in 21st with 22nd going to Alex Denning. 23rd Nick Clibbins. Jamie Dory 24th, and I have to cut myself off as we're about to get underway here for the next race of the night. On the front row is David Whitehouse and Liam Tack. And away we go. Down the hill we'll go here at Knockhill for the final time as the sun sets here on our night of racing. A good start from David Whitehouse, but Pete Newman into third place he goes, looking always to try and get into the top 2 spots already. Wayne Douglas making his way through past Glenn Humberston already.
Whitehouse is off.
Whitehouse is off, straight into the gravel. He's off the track, and that'll let through everyone, and Pete Newman goes into lead, and Dave Whitehouse has to rejoin the track very slowly and very carefully as all the cars passing by. One opportunity, and he's got damage on his car as well.
It's been not a good start to the race from Whitehouse there, but what it does mean is we see there's a wayward car in the rear of the pitch. They're coming back into turn 7. He's going to rejoin safe. That's the number 27 car of Sam Smith as he comes back. I think he's been knocked wide, and we've got the renowned car there, well, in another instant, and is that Dory and also what looks to be, well, they're parked together, and that's got to be Dempsey alongside him.
Keith Dempsey and Jamie Dory came together, but we must resume at the front as Wayne Douglas has taken the lead away from Pete Newman somehow, and we have a caution. We have a yellow flag caution as the track was blocked a bit further back there. Gives us a bit of time to breathe, a bit of time to regroup, but Pete Newman, after the disappointment of race 2, the coming together between him and Mcnally, he finds himself in the lead under a caution period, and this is going to wind down the laps, giving him less time to worry about drivers behind further on in the race. So let's get a little bit of a recap of what actually happened. Let's see what happened to Dave Whitehouse first of all. He went off the track at the start of that race, only as far as turn 3, so let's try and get a look once we find the instant itself. There we go. So this was turn 3 at the beginning of the lap with David Whitehouse into Duffus Dip. He goes on, he loses it going into turn 2 actually, hit the curb a bit too hard and it upset the rear, and he hits the wall and damages the car beyond capability of driving, of course. That means he'll have to come to the pits and get it repaired, which is a sad way for him to end a potential good run at the front for David Whitehouse, running very well tonight in the AM category. And let's see what else happened out there. We had the coming together between Jamie Dory and I think it was Keith Dempsey. So we saw Sam Smith running wide there. Jamie Dory to his right, and it became a 5 wide situation. There's no way 5 are going into that corner, is there, Paul?
No, there's not, and in the end, where it was the case, the drama between Dory and Smith, it was just, not Smith, my apologies, Dempsey just backing out. Then you could see immediately slamming on the brakes, particularly when Dempsey came through on the inside there, and as a result, dodging the contact, which could have been plenty more cars involved in that, but it's just unfortunate, and it's the way that the racing gods portray it. As meanwhile, we can see there, as they all made their way then down towards the hairpin, and everybody having to back off there. And well, it's just the way it played out in the end, as all of our drivers now following under what is the caution for the time being. The safety car lights off, so I get the feeling we're going racing again at the end of this lap.
We are indeed. The marshals, the Orange Army, have done very well to clean up the mess out there, and we are going racing very, very quickly here. No fascicles like we saw in the Formula 1. Oh, I had to mention it again, didn't I? But we're about to get underway here at Knockhill again. Only 3 minutes expired in this race. Wayne Douglas leads. Something's happened to Pete Newman. He's down in 22nd. Has he had a penalty of some sort?
I wonder if he has, because he did trade places with Douglas just as the caution was thrown, and I'm wondering whether as a result he's been dropped down the order and has now got it all to do, which is the last thing Newman will have wanted. He can't seem to get a break after what happened in race number 2, and now this, but it does look as though Newman there, in fact, he had to peel into the pits. I think that must have been a drive-through penalty. Yeah,
it might have been overtaking under caution. It might have been a jump start of some sort. Not too sure, but he doesn't lose track from the pack. That's the important thing. He has got plenty of time to get himself back up the order. That's something we might see from Pete Newman here. As the pace car is about to peel off, we're about to get underway for this restart here. Wayne Douglas not wasting much time. He lets the pace car pull away a bit, and he's flat on the throttle. That's very good timing indeed for Wayne Douglas. The green flag waves, and he's got quite a gap to Glenn Humberston behind, his fellow Pro-Am category driver, and in third place. But first overall in the Am category, it is Mark Arrowsmith as we go through Duffers Dip for the first time.
Indeed, and Douglas there showing you just how to control the restart here at Knockhill as he's just timed it to perfection. But meanwhile, Liam Tack, they're going a little bit wide as Paul Scott tries to sneak on through, and Dean Fairclough coming through as they all make their way down through 4 and up into 5, 6 here. And it is the case as the other classes make their way around. We can see there's Nigel Stock now who's gone for a little bit of a rallycross line there, coming out of 3 and on to 6. He rejoins safely, but right now Wayne Douglas nailing that start, peach perfect. And as he makes his way down towards turn number 9 right now, you can see Humberstone behind, who's just having to watch on in the meantime, as already our leaders are starting to spread out to a degree, but we've got 3 Pro-Ams in the top 3 places.
Absolutely, and Am category driver Mark Arrowsmith leads the way in his category. Paul Scott just 2 places behind him, who was the leader at the Am category championship coming into tonight. Deegan Fairclough first of the pros at the moment, and quite a gap to Bobby Thompson there in 7th place. 10 places gained already, and look at this battle here, headed by Ollie Peters going into Duffers Dip. Through we go, and Liam Tack runs a little bit wide here, and that's going to allow Alex Denning through to the inside going into turn 3. Now Tom Delaney is trying to peel through. Lots of places lost here for Denning, and they come together. They're still able to keep going, but I think it was not Denning, it was Liam Tack who runs wide there and loses a few places. Through we go, and Ben Bennyworth has got through a few places there. 10 places gained for him in this race, and 13 gained for Aaron Thompson. 13 gained for Mikey Doble as well.
Indeed, and the one thing here is as our drivers try to negotiate this reversed grid, and we see the faster drivers trying to come up through the field, you can imagine, particularly for the slower drivers who find themselves in this uncomfortable position where they're the lead cars. So I have drivers going for the moves. Doble here looks for the move on Thompson, but then backs out of it there, trying to indicate he wants to go for the move. But it's about timing these moves right, and I think it will be the case that particularly our faster drivers coming through the field will know that if they really force a move on, they will be seeing the wrath of the stewards here, and the stewards are not going to take kindly to any forced moves. As we see Wayne Douglas making his way around, but looking further back here, and this is the battle of course for the midfield here as they all make their way down to turn 1, and see Liam Tack there trying to hold on right now as he's got a whole plethora of drivers coming on through, as that's Newman looking up the inside into 3, and Tack gets it wrong, then pulls across the circuit, and as they make their way through, that's 5 wide through turn number 4. You can't have that happen. Oh goodness me, and that is a wayward car in the form of Liam Tack being clipped there. The LT Racer iRacing and Cockrell as well getting it wrong, but Cockrell not in that instance. I wonder if Cockrell's just simply missed his braking point as they make their way down towards the hairpin. We're looking at Arrowsmith. These are the lead pack as they make their way in, and Arrowsmith trying to go round the outside here of Peters, but I think more just giving Peters the space, and Arrowsmith trying to tuck in and have that opportunity, although I say that he's going to get ahead in the drag race down towards turn 1 here as Denton forms in the slipstream as they make their way down. And once these cars don't look aerodynamic as such, I can tell you that when you're behind one of these Mazdas in one of them, it's punching a hole in the air, you'll take it and you'll gain a lot of speed down the straight, as we see Tom Delaney meanwhile in P10 trying to chase down down Aerosmith. And I think what Delaney needs to focus on here right now is just take it easy. Don't push too hard at this point in the race. Let the drivers ahead bring him to Aerosmith, not the other way around. He doesn't need to overdrive this one right now, because overdriving seems what is costing drivers places left, right and centre in these races as they make their way through turn number 7. Aerosmith very high on the apex curve there. He's got to be careful of that, because that apex curve will launch the car, or it could be considered a track limits violation as they make their way down towards 9 once again. And Ollie Peters now, the Crest Autosport driver, looking for that move up the inside. I think he's going to have this one quite simple. You see Doble there coming on through as Aaron Thompson went a bit deep into the corner on the outside, and they're all trying to negotiate around one another at the moment as they make their way onto another lap here. We are 8 minutes into the 25-minute race right now, and Aerosmith trying to come back to Peters, and to be fair to Aerosmith, he's loving it, he's going for it, and into turn number 1 he goes once again as they make their way through. You can see Peters giving the space. Will Bennyworth come through, Alex?
Wow, looking all ways is Bennyworth, but take your hat off to Mark Aerosmith. His third league race in iRacing, and these are not easy cars, and this is not an easy track, and this is not an easy league. And Aerosmith's hanging on fairly well as Humberstone is dropping down here. Might have been a slowdown coming out of the chicane. He's holding up Ben Bennyworth. Oh, and there's a bit of a blip in and out there for Humberstone as Ollie Peters is wide. Coming back onto the track, he just about keeps hold of that Mazda. And through will go Ben Bennyworth, but Aerosmith still battling with the likes of Mikey Doble, who's found the inside. Aerosmith covers him off at the apex of the hairpin, and there's a spin there. I think that's John Burnham. John Burnham is off the track in the Alpine livery, and that drops him well down the order. He was contending for the top spot in Pro-Am category. Now that lets Alex Denning get away in third place here to catch up with the top runners.
Indeed, and the mistakes being made by drivers here, and we're hearing that Bobby Thompson's made his way up into P4 whilst that was all going on as well. So Thompson right now, he's only got 2 more drivers ahead of him to hunt down for the pro lead, as we can see Bennyworth meanwhile leading the pack of cars as Doble there finally clearing Aerosmith. It's taken him multiple attempts, but he's finally got the job done. And Aerosmith, as you're saying there, Alex, just showing no fear. He's enjoying this experience as they make their way through turn number 7. But there's Nigel Stockdown P23, who seems to have a bit of a moment.
Yeah, coming through turns 1 and 2, way too quick into the chicane there. Loses shape as he comes through 2. Nearly kept hold of it, to be fair, but the gravel trap sending him victim wide into turn 3. Nigel Stock's night from bad to worse, it seems. But at the front still, it is Wayne Douglas. Fairly comfortable at the moment. He did very well in race 1, keeping up with the top pack there, and he had the race 1 winner Deegan Furclow closing in there, 12 places back. There was a spin there, that was Liam Tack retiring to the pits there after a spin. Alex Denning in third place, second place in the Pro-Am category on his debut tonight, but he's got Bobby Thompson closing in and hounding him. We've got a big battle back here. This is Ben Bennyworth, Ollie Peters and Mikey Doble, and something's happened to Pete Newman. I just saw on the timing something happened to Pete Newman, and we've got Holmes off and we've got Dempsey off. Let's have a look, see what's happened to Pete Newman. Did see something come up for him just then on our timing thing. Nick Clibbins in
something
here.
Major's happened. Oh goodness me! So as they've come down through 2 and into 3 here, they went 2 by 2, and Newman looking to the inside. Well, it's not unconventional move, but then contact, and as a result, I think Newman in the end finding himself between 2 cars, and well, that is a disaster for all 3 involved, Clibbins and Newman and company, as they all look to now try and repair their races. But meanwhile, with Newman down and out the order, you can see it's the case that meanwhile, oh goodness me, and that's Ollie Peters.
Ollie Peters and Ben Bennyworth have come together, the two that take part together in the IndyCar Championship of Crest Autosport. Here we go into the first corner, Duffus Dip. Ollie Peters, and behind him, that isn't Ben Bennyworth, and it seems that was Mikey Doble. A little bit of a push on Ollie Peters, but Ollie Peters seemed to brake very late going into turn 1 there, and taps Bennyworth on the rear, sending him round. Oh, and there's a lot going on in the middle here as Ollie Peters is still trying to recover. Drops down to 18th place now behind Lee Horn and Lee Holmes there. Meanwhile, back towards the front, there's a swap for the AM category. Into the lead goes...
it's Tom Delaney.
Yeah, Tom Delaney, thank you.
It's going to be Aerosmith now who looks to come back as they come roaring across the straight here into the timeline. And Aerosmith, I think, is going to have that advantage down into turn 1. He's got the inside line. I think Delaney at this point just needs to be wary of his adversary here.
Oh,
Because
wow.
Delaney's got the experience, but at the same time, Aerosmith, well, he is definitely bringing some experience to the table as they make their way through turn 3. And you can see that the Maverick here making his way through 4 and up into 5, 6. And right now, not yielding. And can Delaney find a way to break down the resistance of Aerosmith? I'd say, given the fact we're only halfway into this race, we're just about halfway there, as Fairclough has taken the lead of the Douglas, and Douglas giving him all the space in the world there to go for the move into turn number 9. It's the case of the Pro-Am driver here, just bringing this one all the way home. And as we've seen the replay here, a conventional move into turn 9, is it not, Alex?
Yep, as good as you like. And Wayne Douglas knows this is not his fight to fight with Deegan Fairclough here. He knows he is fighting for that top spot in Pro-Am, but that does allow him open to the attack from Alex Denning just not too far behind. That was a back marker behind Wayne Douglas, so quite a time gap, 3 seconds to Alex Denning, so quite a bit of time. And Alex Denning is going to be contending with Bobby Thompson here, presumably for the next few corners or even laps or so. Bobby Thompson taking a look, going into Clark, and now onto the railway stretch. Bobby Thompson getting a good run out of the corner. He'll take to the outside. Let's get on board with Bobby Thompson, and covered off. Alex Denning takes to the inside. A bit of a nudge from Bobby Thompson to say, get a move on, Alex. To the outside goes Bobby Thompson. He'll try an undercut coming out of the hairpin here. Big push on the throttle as we come out of the corner. Goes to the inside now as we head up the hill. Denning trying to cover off Thompson, but Thompson is adamant. He's going to stick to the inside. He's forced off track and takes to the grass. All 4 wheels off. And into turn 1 will go. Still contending for the position. Thompson takes to the inside and takes it through. Heavy persistence there from Bobby Thompson, but he takes 3rd place in the end.
Oh my goodness, I mean, if you were to look at a driver who knows how hard to race, it's Thompson, because with a move like that, I think Thompson knows there's an opportunity to bring down Fairclough, who's only 4 seconds up the road, and he is serious. He's not going to let a little bit of squeeze to the inside of the circuit stop him from getting past. And now Denning, will we see Denning come back at him here? I think the gap's a little bit too sizable, although I say that there may be the opportunity to go for the lunge here, but will he go from that far back? I don't think so. Meanwhile, Deegan Fairclough just trying to hold on to that lead, but as he makes his way onto the straight, then Mikey Doble in P5, but a bit further back, Delaney and Aerosmith have traded places once again. Delaney now the leader of the AM class in P7 as Mikey Doble continues to chase after the top 4, but he is the best part of 6 seconds away from the top 4 as things that currently stand. And then we've got Jamie Dory here, will find himself chasing after what is Aerosmith, and as they make their way down, Dory into the pits.
Dory in the pits. Something's happened to him at some point on this lap. It might be a drive-through penalty, too many incidents or something like that, but into the pits he goes, and that compromises what a great night it has been for Jamie Dory. Oh, as we've seen it coming together between the 2 AM category drivers. Aerosmith and Delaney are off, and they left through a load of loads and loads of drivers. There's there's contact. 22 has spun around. That's George Watson, and it collects all sorts of other cars, including Delaney, I think. Yes, Delaney has been collected in all of that. Quite the mess indeed during that few sequence of corners. Aerosmith is clear in the AM category here after the coming together, and we're just trying to find it on replay. But quite the instant we had there in the chicane. So here we go, is another side-by-side between the 2. I believe this might be the wrong instant with... Yes, it is.
One. Oh, is it? No, oh, no, that's where the pass was made earlier on.
All right, we'll try and find where it actually was. Let's see. Still trying to find it. Here we go. I'll tell you what, we'll go back to the live action. We'll try and find it a little bit later. But Mark Aerosmith in the clear now in the AM category. There's no other drivers around him. Tom Delaney is there in 19th, and he's peeling off to the pits. Too much damage to the car. And all other AM category drivers are at least 1 lap down. So that means Mark Aerosmith, if he can keep this going, he'll take an AM category victory in his opening night in league racing on iRacing.
Oh, indeed. It's been a difficult one, but Aerosmith right now will see that, and with only the best part of 9 minutes to go, as we see Wayne Douglas has had a major moment, as this is his own doing into turn number 9. I mean, he's had the gap to play with. Now, what on earth has happened? So Wayne Douglas decided he wants to do the hairpin again. Well, credit to him.
Well, okay. I mean, that's kind of the oval layout on this circuit, but not the layout we're meant to be doing today, Wayne. But into the pits he goes. Are we having the same issue as last week here, Paul?
Well, I'm just checking in to see whether with some of our trackside stewards, whether there's been a mistake, because a lot of drivers in and out of pits, as Aerosmith's in. I think we've got another pit stop on the board here, and it is the case that hasn't been fixed from last time, because for so many drivers to be in here and then go and racing again, I think it is a case we've got a mandatory pit stop.
Yes, I believe so. So not enough fuel in the car. Purposely placed by the stewards this week, it seems, because last week actually provided quite an interesting spin on the race. So we're seeing a lot of drivers come into the pits here. Deegan Fairclough still leads this race, however. He won race 1. He's currently leading race 3 here. 13 places gained to get up there, and he has got Bobby Thompson just shy of 4 seconds behind in second place. Bobby Thompson without a win to his name yet tonight. Pole position earlier on, but he is looking and hunting for that final spot as he skips across the curb to just show how much he's pushing.
Indeed, and Thompson with the fastest lap of everybody around here, 55.03, and Thompson in fact with a lap that's faster than his pole time as he continues on that pursuit of the lead right now and really going with a bit between his teeth to hunt down Fairclough. I can imagine he will have a good chance of doing it here, but he's got to navigate the back markers ahead of him right now as he makes his way through turn number 9 and on to another lap. He's going to try and split the seas here as he makes his way down towards turn number 1. I think the blue flags are going to be waving, but who's he trying to navigate his way between, are they? Well, with the renowned Mazda lifting off immediately in the number 22 car, staying in position right now, but Thompson's going to put it on the inside here and gains the positional advantage there over the 2 back markers as they make their way through turn number 3.
Interesting indeed, seeing drivers come into the pits. Adam Delmont is another that takes to the pits. The highest driver of all of the grid who have already taken a pit stop is Pete Newman. Now he's in 6th place right now, and let's see how far he is behind the leader. Let's take a look at that. 21 seconds. So Pete Newman's in a big spot opportunity here. He could take the lead in the race if Fairclough has to pit.
Well, that's the thing. I think for Newman right now, he's timed his pit stop to perfection. If everybody is expected to pit, he's brought himself out in clear air. He's got himself out of trouble. The nearest car to him is Aaron Thompson, who's 2.3 seconds up the road. And whilst Deegan Fairclough right now is lapping in clear air, and his pace is matching Newman just about. In fact, Newman on that last lap, a 55.48 versus Fairclough on a 56.2. So actually, Fairclough having a nightmare of a lap on that previous lap. And I think right now, Newman is on course to potentially jump this one back, or they'll be very close when they emerge from the pits. As Fairclough just attacking the chicane once again. And you can see Thompson in the rearview picture going through it absolutely sideways there and kicking up some dust as we see David Whitehouse following him through behind. But Thompson knows right now he has got to bring that gap to the leader down, as we can see David Whitehouse down in P27 there, and Thompson pressing on up towards the hairpin. But let's wait and see how the pit stops pan, as we've now only got 5 more minutes to go by the time Bobby Thompson clears the hairpin as Fairclough makes his way on through. And can the Fairclough and Key Racing driver here pull off a miracle and bring home the win? That's the question.
That is the question, and so far he hasn't pitted. We do see a lot of drivers pit very, very late on in the previous race. A lot of drivers here in open air, so they're thinking, well, why not get into closed air after pitting? Why don't we just stay in open air and gain the time? And that is exactly what Fairclough and Thompson are going to be doing here. But Thompson is getting a little bit closer, probably isn't getting closer quick enough. He needs a few more mistakes from Fairclough, but we saw he was exemplar in race 1. So quick. In race 1 as Aaron Thompson takes to the pits. He'll take his 1 out of 1 pit stops. And let's see if Fairclough pits at the end of this lap. There's less than 5 minutes remaining in this race. Now our order so far is Fairclough from Thompson from Denning, leader of the Pro-Am category. Mikey Doble in 4th place with 22 places gained. Pete Newman is into 5th place, and he's not too far behind the leaders at all. He's getting a little bit of a tow from Mark Arrowsmith ahead as well, who by the way is now in 2nd in category. Now he has taken a pit stop. Tom Delaney is on course to take 3 PAM victories tonight.
Delaney flying right now as he tries to navigate his way up through the field. We are seeing more pit stops coming in. Bobby Thompson's just come in as Tom Delaney here in a side-by-side moment. Well, I think that was Watson there as they all make their way on around. And as we can see, Cockrell here in P25. Oh, goodness me, we've got Ollie Peters off.
Ollie Peters with a very, very damaged car. The front left is hanging off almost, so going through turn 2 here. He spins it and can't control it. And our driver of the day from last week, it's just been a terrible, terrible night for Ollie Peters, unfortunately. It just hasn't hooked up for him. And that's going to end his race, as I believe he would have taken his fast repair in the pits earlier on with the incident that did happen to him earlier on. But let's see what happens to Deegan Fairclough here. Doesn't pit.
Well, I think Fairclaw's going to go all the way to the end here with Thompson having made his pit stop, and it's not worked out for Thompson because he's come out right behind Bennyworth. But to be fair, if he can find a way to get the move done on Bennyworth here in the run to the turn 1, alternatively into the hairpin and stay ahead into turn 1, this could work to Thompson's advantage as they make the way into the hairpin. Now, he's decided not to go for it here. He's playing the strategy game, which is get that toe down the straight and gain a couple attempts to a second in the long run as they make their way down. We ride on board looking back from the rear of Bennyworth's car. Now, will Thompson go for it? He's thinking about it here, but he's a bit too far back. 2 tenths is the gap, and there's no way through this time as they go into that long braking zone. And as they come over the hill here, you can see Thompson all over the back of Bennyworth like a bad rash. As meanwhile, Lee Horn into the pits there, and we can see Denning coming out of the pits, and I believe our Pro-Am leader here, well, it's going to be Clark who's now into the lead in the Pro-Ams.
Yes, James Clark takes the lead in the Pro-Ams. We haven't heard much from Clark tonight, but it's a very, very good position he's in right now. Has he pit? Which is the question, Liam. James, he's pitted twice. So that's quite impressive that he's this far up the order. Dean Fairclough is now in the pits, though, as is Mikey Doble. So let's keep an eye on where Pete Newman is, who has already pitted. Has he taken on enough fuel is the question that he passes
Fairclough's
by.
leaving his pit box.
Here we go. It's close between Newman and Fairclough. Out of the pits we go. Into turn 1 we go. P. Newman hasn't got enough. Fairclough, yes he has. P. Newman's gone for it. And through he goes. It's side by side between the two and there's a touch. Into turn 3 we go. There was contact between the two, but they were able to keep it going. Fairclough tries to undercut this big contact. And they keep it going, and it might be big damage on Fairclough's car. P. Newman shut the door on Fairclough and keeps first place for the time being. That could have ended both of their races then.
Well, the question will be how much damage has both drivers got on their car right now. As we can see, they make their way through turn number 7. Newman seems to have come off the better of the two with regards to damage dealt. But is it the case that Fairclough's now going to recuperate and go racing once again? We've got just over a minute to go. By the time they go across the timeline, I believe we'll have one more lap. And we can see Bobby Thompson just behind these guys. He is the best part, 5.5 seconds off of our leader. As we see Newman crossing the line, I think he will just about squeeze in 2 more laps. It's going to be very close here, but if we have got 2 more laps, this could get very intense towards the end. And I believe Clark right now in P5, he's got Jenkins only 1.5 seconds back off of him. As you can see here, it's Clark who's tucked him right behind Mikey Doble, and then Lee Holmes a little bit further behind the two of them as Doble goes defensive here into 1.
If there's anyone you want in front towing you along, it's Mikey Doble. And James Clark being dragged along here. He's got Lee Holmes threatening him behind. Doesn't go for the move. James Clark here has to keep it on the black stuff to bring it home for the Pro-Am category win. Whereas Callum Jenkins, his debut night tonight, he most certainly will want a win out of this night tonight. He had a bit of bad luck in race 1 going rear end into the tyres. But here, second in category, a good result for him. But Pete Newman, wow, what an up and down night this has been for him. And right now it's seeming very, very good indeed. But he has got 1 more lap to hang on ahead of Deegan Fairclough as we saw the white flag waving, which signals the final lap. Here we go between these two drivers. Through Duffer Stip we go. This is the view from Deegan Fairclough. He's got to try and catch up in a few more corners. Not many chances to go for an overtake either. It'll take a big mistake from Pete Newman for Fairclough to get this. Through the chicane they go, and up towards Clark they go. Nice and neat from Pete Newman. You can see how much Deegan Fairclough is pushing as he takes it to the gravel. Newman takes it around Clark. 2 wheels, taking the gravel, trying to take all the road and more to get as much time as he can on his rival behind. To the hairpin we go, the final corner, and Deegan Fairclough is too far back to go for a lunge, unless you're Max Verstappen. Oh, I didn't say that. Into the final hairpin we go. Newman is going to take the win here in race 3 for his first win of the season. Up towards the checkered flag for Pure Sims Esports with Mikey Doble Racing. Pete Newman takes the win in race 3. Deegan Fairclough second, and Bobby Thompson takes a 3rd place with a big charge. 14 places gained, and Mikey Doble 22 places gained. The biggest mover off the field will take 4th. James Clark will take the Pro-Am victory in the end, just ahead of Lee Holmes in 6th place. And I think the winner in the AM category is going to be Tom Delaney, making it 3 in a row, and he is chasing down ahead of him a few back markers actually. That's Nigel Stock and David Whitehouse, but he'll come through to take an AM victory and a 3-peat of victories tonight in his category. A well played night for Tom Delaney indeed. But your race winner, Pete Newman, in race 3 here. But what was another race about pit stops And I think we're going to see that for the whole season, in fact.
I think we are. I think it is the case. It's been made a permanent fixture, so apologies for the confusion earlier on, ladies and gentlemen, when I did say that all 3 races were sprints, but it's definitely thrown a mix into the works, and Newman in the end timing that pit stop to perfection. We saw him drop down the order and we were wondering what had happened. Well, it was because he'd taken that all-critical pit stop at the ideal time, and Newman really playing it smart here in race number 3 at Knockhill Circuit.
Well, what a night of racing we've seen, and we'll round up the results of this 3rd race here. Pete Newman takes the win here by just shy of a second from Deegan Fairclough in 2nd place, who did take a win in race 1, but what a good night it has actually been for Deegan. Bobby Thompson in 3rd position. No wins for him tonight, but still a good point score here. And Mikey Doble in 4th place, who might have retained his championship lead, all subject to the results processing after the race. James Clark in 5th place with Lee Holmes in 6th. And James Clark, by the way, first in the Pro-Am category in this race. Callum Jenkins takes 7th from Jamie Dury, and Wayne Douglas in 9th position from Alex Denning, getting himself into the top 10 in this final race. Adam Delmont, our race 2 winner, takes 11th in this race from Lee Horn in 12th. Aaron Thompson takes 13th from Ben Bennyworth in 14th. Am category winner Tom Delaney takes 15th from George Watson and John Burnham in 17th. Nick Clevens in 18th with Mark Arrowsmith. An impressive night for him in 19th position with Sam Smith 20th. Craig Cockrell in 21st with Nigel Stock in 22nd. Keith Dempsey in 23rd. Ollie Peters in 24th, getting an incident towards the end there, as well as Glenn Humston, David Whitehouse, Paul Scott, Liam Tack and Liam Silkstone. So there were your results for this race, the final race of the night. And we've had 3 winners tonight: Deegan Fairclough, Adam Delmont and Pete Newman. So, Paul Walsh, what about that race then?
Well, I think it really has summed up what has been a very intense and fierce night at Knockhill. I mean, really, at the end of the day, you can't say that any of the races were, say peaceful, but indeed they led to a lot of intense racing action. We saw a number of incidents, but to be fair, whilst there were incidents between drivers, nothing of the sort that we saw at Silverstone, and it was the case that the majority of drivers able to make it to the end of the race at the end of the day, and indeed with their cars intact, but most importantly, some brilliant battles out on the circuit, and none more so than the multiple instances we saw side-by-side action rolling from turns 1 through to 5 and 6, and Pete Newman in the end pulling off the strategic masterclass to come home just under a second clear from the rest of the field. And it just sums up a brilliant day of racing at Knockhill, which is, it's not just about being able to overtake, it's also about gaining advantage through strategy when overtaking comes at a premium.
Absolutely. We see that on it seems to be a thing with British tracks. You have to keep up momentum to gain the advantage on the driver in front. We see that with tracks such as Brands Hatch. Alton Park is notorious for it as well. Very difficult track to overtake on is Alton Park, which we're sadly not visiting in this calendar. But yeah, Knockhill certainly has delivered on iRacing so far. Granted, we're in week 13 at the moment, the notorious week 13, which, if you're not aware, is the kind of week where everybody gets a bit of a free-for-all kind of week before we get into the official 12-week series. But yeah, Knockhill, looking forward to racing this in other series. Looking forward to coming back here in the NXTGEN MX-5s in future series, hopefully. But tonight it certainly has delivered. We're trying to look if we've got any interviews. And everyone's being a bit shy at the moment. Nobody seems to want to come in for an interview. A few drivers probably not very happy with some of the racing going on there. But a few drivers... not too sure. A few drivers, it's been quite a good night. And in fact, I'm going to nominate a driver of the day here, Paul. I'm not sure if... well, see if you agree, to be honest. But I'm going to nominate Deegan Fairclough for driver of the day tonight, as he's just been sublime tonight, hasn't he?
Yeah, Deegan has, despite the one incident which saw him make that contact with what was Bobby Thompson in race number 2. Besides that, Deegan Fairclough really has been flying. And I can't disagree with you there in terms of being a great nomination for driver of the day. I think, personally for me, if I was to nominate an individual, Deegan Fairclough would be up there. But also Wayne Douglas, who, well, the only mistake he really made over the course tonight was deciding to take turn 9 twice on a single lap. But beyond that, the Pro-Am driver was on top form, and particularly in races 1 and 2, where he just seemed to not let the occasion faze him.
Well, I'll tell you what, because Deegan has already picked up a first place trophy and a second place trophy tonight, we'll give the commentator's Driver of the Day award to Wayne Douglas in that actual fact. You are absolutely right, Paul Walsh. He's had a brilliant night. Ninth place in that final race. I can't quite remember where he got in race 2, but in race 1 he got a win in category as well. So a big well done to Wayne Douglas for picking up our Driver of the Day award. It doesn't get you any bonus points, unfortunately, for Wayne and last week's winner, Ollie Peters, but it is a very recognisable award and lifts the morale of drivers who deserve being recognised after a good night's racing. So as the sun sets here at Knockhill, I don't think we've got any people coming in for an interview, actually. So we are going to round off this night of racing. So next week, we head off to Austria, and it is the Red Bull Ring. Another track with a low amount of corners, but a longer track, much higher speeds, but still a lot of hills to contend with, a lot of slow corners to contend with, and very difficult for overtaking. But the Red Bull Ring is our destination next week, which will be the last round before Christmas and New Year. So do tune in to Crest Autosport TV on Twitch and YouTube, but also Next Gen Racing on Facebook. Do give us a like, share, follow, or subscribe from wherever you are watching on whatever platform, from wherever you are around the world. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and hopefully we'll see you next week. But final thoughts, Paul.
Well, I mean, if the opening 2 rounds have been anything to go by, I can't wait to see our drivers take to the Red Bull Ring circuits, because Red Bull Ring, very high speed, but at the same time, intense braking zones. And what I think our drivers do love to get their elbows out in the braking zones, and Red Bull Ring is going to see the fireworks blow up before we get to Christmas Day. Indeed, I think there might be some presents on the way for certain drivers as they look to take to the top step of the podium.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen, from wherever you are around the world on whatever platform. This has been the Next Gen Racing MX-5 Cup, round 2 at Knockhill International Layout. I've been Alex Everett of Crest Autosport, and alongside me has been Paul Walsh. This has been round 2 of the championship, and what a round it has been. We'll see you next time at the Red Bull Ring, Spielberg. For now, it's over and out. We'll see you in 1 week's time.